everyone, welcome back to Gracie May's Tarot. So today we have a video that was requested by a subscriber. This is another future spouse reading, but today we're going to be taking a look at how will your future spouse flirt with you. Now, this could get into how it will be when you first meet them, or around those initial conversations if you meet online or talk on the phone, or it could be once you're dating them, or even after you're married. I'm not going to put a time frame on it. I'm just going to leave it completely open-ended, and we'll see what your future spouse's higher self has to say, as well as your spirit guides. So we have 3 groups to choose from today. For pile 1, we have the World card. For pile 2, we have the High Priestess. I love this High Priestess card. It's so pretty. And then for pile 3, we have the Lovers. I really love this deck in general. Like, if I'm looking at these cards, I'm like, actually, I love every single one of these. But anyway, the timestamps will be listed below in the description box, just like always. Also, just let me know down in the comments. I watch a lot of tarot readings myself on YouTube. There's a lot of channels that I'm a fan of, and I've kind of noticed, I'm like, my intros are really short. Would you guys like longer intros, or do you prefer to just get into it? As a viewer, I typically don't watch intros, so I think that's why, like, as a creator, I've just made really short intros, and I haven't really, chit-chatted a lot. Like, I usually click on a reading, pause the video, meditate on the group, and then pick my group, and then I'm off. Like, I don't even listen to the intro unless there's something about the topic that's confusing or something, or it's a specific layout. But yeah, let me know in the comments, like, what your preferences are. Like, if you guys would like a life update or some chit chat in the intro, if you think the intros are too short, or if you prefer a short to the point intro, let me know. Yeah, this channel's still new. Like, I'm still figuring stuff out, so feedback is always appreciated. I know I can't please everyone, but I would like to be, like, catering to the majority of you at least. All right, thanks so much, guys. Timestamps in the description box. Let's get into it. Hi, pile 1. Welcome to your reading. If you chose the World card, you are in the right place. Now, as you can see, we're starting off with dice today, and then we will get into your tarot and your oracle messages. All right, so with your Astro dice here, we have Gemini, we have the 12th house, and we also have the South Node here. I think it's very interesting. There's some sort of aspect here where when your future spouse speaks to you, in your mind, you can't help but compare them to either one specific ex, or sort of like past situationships, or past people who disappointed you, or people that you used to have a crush on, but for whatever reason, like, it didn't pan out. Or even sort of the idea of the person that you thought you wanted, a type that you were attracted to, but you knew that type of person wasn't good for you, or it hadn't worked out in the past, and you kind of felt like you were repeating some sort of pattern that you couldn't get out of. And it's kind of an interesting message, right? Because we're talking about, like, how is your future spouse going to flirt with you? But it's almost like it's not so much the way that they're flirting with you that's triggering this, but just more so they are such a departure from what you're used to. Like, they are the change, I think, that you've been hoping for, and kind of like you didn't know what kind of person to ask for exactly. You just knew what you didn't want to repeat. And when you're, listening to them talk, and when you're interacting with them, and the way that they're approaching you, and the way that they're flirting with you, it's so different. And it's kind of just this energy of, this is everything I didn't know that I needed, which is really cool. And so, yeah, there's definitely something here about a major change. Okay, the stray cat is outside. I'm gonna go feed it, and I will be right back. All right, sorry about that, pile 2. But the reason why I'm getting this message is because we have this figure here, which is supposed to depict someone who is quite duplicitous, someone who lies a lot. And then here we have the pirate, which also depicts like deceit and betrayal and, you know, kind of like a villain character. And so you have two messages about that. It really feels like when they talk to you, they just seem so earnest and so like good-natured. And I think it's such a departure. It's almost like you've been dating shadows, or like you've been, you know, like people who are so in their shadow, and not to like villainize your shadow, but you know, people who are just operating at a lower level, you know, people who are in sort of the shadow side of, you know, whatever astrological sign that they are. Like you may feel like, how do I keep dating, for example, like Geminis, and I keep, you know, dating people who are operating, you know, within sort of the debilitated part of that sign, you know, like being very like wishy-washy, flaky, flipping sides, you know, changing faces, you know, sort of the negative stereotype of Gemini. But what you're wanting is like the positive Gemini. You're wanting like the lover side to Gemini. You're wanting someone who is great at communication, and someone who's intelligent and witty and clever and fun to be around and sociable, and you know, that sort of good-natured side to Gemini, because it's a great sign. Like my moon's in Gemini, it's a great sign. But it feels like, you know, you've been with people who kind of flip the script on you and end up being the exact opposite of what you thought that they were. And so there may be a little bit of hesitancy here, like, is this person too good to be true? But I think ultimately, like, if you're connected to your intuition during this time, you're going to feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders, just because you can engage in the flirtatious back and forth without having this like sinking feeling of, are they playing me? You know, am I falling too fast? You know, should I be buying into this? You know, I feel like the message here is that it's going to be safe for you to flirt and to be playful and not be in your head and not have your guard up and worried about, you know, is this person gonna screw me over? So I kind of feel like we had to get that message out of the way, because it's almost like Spirit just wanted to reassure you that the past is not going to repeat itself, and that, you know, it is safe for you to let your guard down and participate in one of the funnest like parts of a new developing relationship. So I think we're talking more about the start of the connection at this point. But yes, like this isn't going to be someone who is untrustworthy, essentially. Now, we also have the fortune cookie here. And given that we have the 12th house, Pisces talks a lot about dreams and the unseen and the spiritual realm and the 5D. So I do feel like sort of like this person flirts with you in a way that kind of feels a bit surreal to you. It's almost like when you're talking to them, you're falling into a pattern of speaking with them, like a rapport that you have with them that you haven't worked to develop. It's like instant. And I think that's because you knew them in a past life. It feels like you've spoken to this person before. Like, you know, this could be someone that you've never met before, and yet it feels like you've known them before. It feels, you know, the ease of the conversation just flows very smoothly here. And it's because it's just so balanced, the back and forth between you two. Yeah, it's very quick and very easy. And I think that's a relief, especially if you're someone who gets nervous on first dates, or you get nervous about the talking stage of a relationship, when you're just getting to know someone. You know, if that's something you typically struggle with, or if you've just dated people who, you know, made you feel like you had to carry the conversation, you had to make all the effort, it's going to be a real relief to see how easy you two speak and how communication just flows. You know, it doesn't feel artificial. It doesn't feel rehearsed. Everything feels very authentic and easy. And I definitely feel this person has a gift for language, but I also feel, given that you chose the World card here, that they're gonna flirt with you in a way that kind of ticks everything that you've always sort of dreamed about, with the Pisces energy here as well. So it's going to be the exact opposite of what you've encountered in the past, but it's going to be very like comprehensive is the word that's coming to mind. You know, it's just sort of like they're doing everything that you've always kind of wanted. And so this is a general reading, so it could definitely vary from like person to person watching this. But for example, like if you are a more like traditional person and you wish that someone would flirt with you in a way that is like very like respectful, then they could be doing that. Or if you're someone who does like things to be a bit more spicier, you know, like maybe this person is flirting with you in a way that involves like physical touch, you know, or they're giving you lots of compliments, or, you know, they're just very like physically attractive to you, and the things that they're doing, you know, are drawing you in, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I do feel like this person is attuning to your needs, and they're really able to sort of pick up, you know, this is turning them on versus this is turning them off kind of thing. Even the castle here with like the bubbles and the sky, this talks about projection and imagination, and sort of very much like in alignment with this Pisces energy. It even looks like it's under the sea, right? And Pisces is two fish swimming in the opposite direction. And it's funny too, because I always think of Pisces as sort of the Gemini of the water signs. So it's almost like you've been in these connections that were never really living up to your expectations. You know, like you were falling in love with potential in the past, and this person comes in and they're the exact opposite. So it's almost like, you know, with the Pisces energy, you were meeting people and you were going this way and they were going that way, and it was just, you know, the connection was just staying in your head. It was never manifesting into what you thought it could be or what you thought it should be. And so now with the Gemini energy coming in and that south node going away, now what you've been dreaming of, that castle under the sea kind of thing, is now manifesting into reality kind of message here. So there's no trickery going on anymore. Like it's very much grounded in what you've been wanting, you know. It goes from a house to being a castle, you know, like there's a transition here, like you're finally meeting your match, someone who is on your vibrational level. So like if you were dating pages before, now it's a king or a queen kind of energy. So yeah, I do feel like this person is quite mature. They're not going to be, again, it's going to depend upon like what you personally like, but I don't think that they're going to be immature, you know, like there's no sense of like, oh, I'm going to flirt with you by pretending like I'm not interested. You know, like that's not the case here. They're not going to flirt with you in a way where they're being to where they seem like they're a player, or they are, you know, only interested in one thing and they're not interested in a long-term commitment. You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels like this person is just very honest, like this is where I've been, this is who I am, this is what I want. You know, like they kind of just lay it all out on the table. And I do think there's a real friendliness to this person. Again, they just have like a very earnest, good-natured kind of vibe to them. But they are quite, again, they're quite different. And it's not necessarily that they're different than the average person. They're just so different than what you're used to. So this person has a very different vibe to them, is how I guess I'll put it. But let's get into your tarot now. Let's see if we can find out some more information here. We'll put this to the side. I'm going to use the Pastel Journey Tarot for your reading. And we're shuffling on camera because I've just missed it. I feel like last month I did a lot of pre-pulled cards, and it does make the readings, I think, faster, but I don't know, I just don't like it as much. Okay, so pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 1. And we'll probably get into other messages. Like, I have so many oracle cards laid out for you guys, so I'm sure that we'll pick up a lot more than just how they're gonna flirt with you, because that's a pretty like small topic here. We've got 2 of Cups. That's the perfect way to start your reading, right? We've got the Devil. We've got the 7 of Swords. Exactly. Oh my gosh. This is laying out so well. We'll get one more card and then I think we'll get into it. Sorry, I don't like to really start until I see the full story. Oh my gosh. And bottom of the deck, we have the World again. Like, this person kind of feels like they are representing you closing out a karmic cycle. Like, seriously. Like, I don't know what is going on in your life right now, or if you've just been someone who would say that they're unlucky in love, or maybe you've just always been single and you're worried that you're going to be like forever alone, or maybe you just have a lot of limiting beliefs around love. You know, it could be like multiple things going on, but wow, like this person really represents like one door closing and another door opening. Like, it feels like a full, it feels like an emotional glow up. Like, it just feels like a whole new fresh start for you, pile 1. And I'm so happy for you. Like, this is exactly what you deserve, because we've got the 2 of Cups, we've got the Devil, we've got the 7 of Swords, and we have the Moon. Like, you see how kind of her facial expression to me looks a bit apprehensive, it looks a bit jaded, it looks a bit fed up. Like, what else is new? Like, what next? You know, like someone who's just kind of over it, and you may be feeling kind of fed up with your love life, you know, or just fed up with the same old repeating cycle. Like, why do I keep dating the same jerk like over and over again? And, you know, with the 7 of Swords, like, this is someone who lies, someone who has ill intent, someone who is being deceitful, someone who is draining your energy, someone who just takes and does things behind your back and is really sneaky and shady. And the Devil, like, this can talk about like sexual energy, but it can also talk about addictions and codependency. And being chained to something that's not serving you. And it's funny because I feel like the Devil is playing both sides here. The Devil is kind of saying, like, which way do you want to go? Do you want to have like this over here where you have like chemistry with someone and positive sexual experiences and energy with someone, or do you want this again? You know, like, I feel like, and here's the Moon, like, you're kind of wary. You're like, it's almost like we could flip these cards over and the Devil is saying, all right, which way do you want to go? And you see which way she's pointing, right? Like, she's telling you to go to the 2 of Cups, but you're kind of wary. You're like, do I trust this Devil? Like, look at her. It says evil on her shirt, you know? Like, and it's kind of like the Devil in this energy is like your heart. And so you're like, can I trust my heart? Can I trust my own discernment? You know, my heart has led me astray before. But really it wasn't your heart, you know, like it was your ego making like fear-based decisions and settling for less and, you know, all of that. But I think, you know, you got your heart mixed up with your ego and your intuition was suppressed and you ignored some red flags maybe in the past and now you don't trust your own judgment. And I would definitely recommend like looking at the little intuition check videos that I've been posting, because maybe that will help build your self-confidence around trusting your own intuition and your own discernment and judgment. If you haven't watched those, I do recommend maybe checking them out. They're just one question and they're super fast. So Alright, so I have 3 of those videos posted at the time I'm filming this, but by the time this uploads, there'll probably be like 5 or 6 up. But yes, so it feels like you could go either way with this. And so I kind of feel like it's kind of like this reading is laying out like, you need to be in a position where you feel safe to flirt, where you feel safe to open up and engage with someone. And I kind of feel like your future spouse is going to pick up on that. And so the way that they approach you, they may end up adjusting their approach to kind of meet you where you're at, because I feel like you have pieced your heart back together as best as you can, but you haven't forgotten the past and you haven't forgotten those old cycles, and you're like very wary about you know, there's so much caution here of like, I don't want to make the same mistake again. I don't want to be wrong again. Like, I don't know if I can go through another cycle of that. The moon talks about cycles. And so I do feel like the message here is that it is safe for you to love. It's going to be safe for you to choose this person, but also the way that this person is going to flirt with you and the way that they're going to approach you is one that's going to make you feel safe. You know, like the difference between like this person's attitude here versus the dynamic that's going on between them here is very different, right? You know, like eyes are wide open and then here they're closed. Like, you can close your eyes with this person and trust that they're not doing something shady. You know, like you can go into this blind and it's all going to be okay because this person is trustworthy. They're not going to drop your hand. They're not going to take from you. They're not going to lie and be deceitful. And so, yeah, there's just this reassuring message here. So I feel like the way that they flirt with you is one that makes you feel safe and cozy and secure and grounded. And so I think the way that will play out is that they're going to reciprocate and mirror your actions. So it's almost like your future spouse is going to let you take the lead here, and they're going to take a step back and let you guide how this goes, because they understand that they're kind of just picking up on it. I think your future spouse is very intuitive, and they may even have psychic abilities that they're not aware of, and it could just be that maybe there's a soulmate, you know, connection here, but they're going to pick it up and they're going to follow your lead and let you kind of direct how this is going to go, because they understand energetically that even without you expressing it, that you're nervous. And that you have clearly been through some heartbreak, disappointment, grief in your life, and it doesn't even have to be with a past romantic partner. You know, like your family can break your heart, and that will do a number on you. Speaking from personal experience, that will do a number on you in your love life. Like, we absolutely know your relationship with your caregiver when you're a child, and even as an adult, can influence your romantic partnerships as an adult. There's a whole section of like attachment theory and psychology that supports this. If you're unfamiliar with that and that message is resonating, maybe Google it, look into it. I'm sure there's YouTube videos on it. So yes, that's a message for some of you, but I do feel like your future spouse is going to mirror you and kind of, you know, just let you take the lead and reciprocate the energy and the effort that you're putting forward. There was another message here. Oh, yes, everything's going to be quite balanced. So if you're pulling back, they'll pull back too. If you're moving forward, they'll move forward too. You know, like they're just mirroring you. They're matching your energy. And so this really feels like it's your choice here. It's your choice to engage. You know, like they're not going to aggressively pursue you and scare you off, and they're not going to be cold and distant when you're putting in the effort, you know, so they're really going to match your energy here. This was a really cool, like, I love the way Spirit laid this out. Or your future spouse's higher self, whoever did this. This is like very cool. Okay, let's get into the archetype that will best represent your future spouse and how they will flirt with you. Let's look into this. Pile 1, please, Spirit. Which archetype will best represent how pile 1's future spouse will flirt with them? What do we need to know here? Pile 1, please, Spirit. Oh, yeah. We've got wounded child. Awakens compassion and desire to serve wounded children. Opens the learning path of forgiveness. Yeah, like you are representing the wounded child in this dynamic, and they are coming through and seeking to help you heal that in some manner. So I definitely feel like for many of you, this does go back to childhood. Like this does go back to a difficult relationship with a parent or a difficult family dynamic where, and even like sibling rivalry, like if you were kind of like the black sheep in your family, you never could do anything right. You felt like the scapegoat. And if that's not resonating, it could just be that there's something, like if you're more of I'm kind of picking up like an anxious attachment style, if you have a more anxious attachment style and you feel like that has been exacerbated by people being deceitful and betraying you, and you can't get out of that cycle, and it's, kicking up some insecurities that began in childhood for you of like just feeling like you're not good enough or you're unlovable in some way, or even if you have issues of like abandonment, that could also be a thing. I don't want to keep getting too deep into this, but I think you get where I'm going with it. Your future spouse is going to flirt with you in a way that feels very warm, very comforting, very loving. And so in a practical sense, like this is the type of person where if you said you were sick, okay, like I'm bringing you soup, how can I help? Do you need me to make you a cup of tea? Can I bring over some movies for you to watch? Like how can I help? Do you need my Netflix password? Like that kind of thing. This is someone who's going to check in with you, check up on you. This is someone, if you say you've had a bad day, they're seeking to like figure out how they can comfort you. There's something very warm and nurturing about your future spouse's energy that makes you feel safe and protected. Very safe and very protected. Like this warm quilt being wrapped around you, this love and this light being poured into you. This is a very empathetic, compassionate, and giving person. And they just have it in them where they like to take care of people. So they could have like mom or dad energy to them. Like they really just like to take care of people, and that will extend to you as well. Let's see here. Bottom of the deck, we have Trickster. This is that Seven of Swords. Like this is what you have encountered in the past and what you are leaving behind. So you are, letting go of people who seemed like they were one thing but ended up being something completely opposite to what you were expecting. So you're leaving behind that, deceitful energy. Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? We're actually taking these two cards, not this one. Okay. We have expectation, expect the best. And we have exploration, step outside of your boundaries. I do feel like your future spouse is kind of helping you raise your standards a bit. And not to say that you have low standards, but it's almost like you have taught yourself to expect less so that you don't get disappointed and you don't get your hopes up for no reason. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee. So yes, they're helping you raise your standards. And this is actually reminding me of one of my close friends. Like her and I had a conversation where, she had had a past partner who just would never take her out to a sit-down restaurant, and it used to infuriate me. Like her dates with that person towards the end of their connection, was just like, okay, we're running this errand, so we're gonna swing by this fast food place and you're gonna pay for your own food and this is a date. No, that's not a date, you know? Like, it's almost like spending time with her was an afterthought. And then she would feel guilty about expecting someone to pay for her food. But I kept telling her, like, you deserve to have someone plan a date for you, ask you out, take you there, and treat you to a nice dinner. Like, that is okay. That's not something to feel guilty about. That doesn't make you less of a feminist. Like, you deserve to have someone treat you nice and do something nice for you. And it doesn't mean that you're playing into gender stereotypes, but if they asked you out and they planned the date, then there's nothing wrong with them paying for you. And if they offer, it's okay to say, yes, thank you. Like, you don't have to insist upon paying for yourself and expect to always pay for yourself. You know, like, it doesn't always have to be like that. And you deserve, she would feel guilty about, you know, agreeing to go to a really nice place. I'm like, no, like, if they offer to take you there, you deserve to go somewhere nice. Like, my gosh, like, you've dealt with fast food, you know, drive-through dinner dates for I don't know how long. Like, you deserve better than that. And so, you know, now she is comfortable with someone taking her to a nice place and offering to pay for her food, but it was like a process to get her there. You know, like, I had to encourage her like multiple times, like, you don't have to feel guilty about that. And so maybe you resonate with that on some level or some aspect of dating where you've just gotten used to being uncomfortable with someone treating you nicely because it's not, you know, it hasn't been your experience before in the past. And so your future spouse may insist upon paying for dinner or insist upon taking you to nice places or may buy you gifts that are more expensive than what you're used to or more thoughtful even that you're used to. It may just do things for you like open your door or, you know, I don't know, like, they just may do things that are more romantic and of a higher standard than what you are used to. And so I think as a result of that period of flirtation and dating and getting to know each other, your standards are gonna raise. With exploration, I do think that your future spouse may flirt with you in a way that pushes you outside of your comfort zone at a certain point in the connection. Like, I feel like they're very mindful of your boundaries and easing into it, but I do think there is going to be a turning point, probably once you're at a place where you're in an exclusive relationship with them, where they may encourage you in a playful and like teasing way to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, in the sense of like, because you see like how they're going through like this fence here, they're showing me like kind of like not adrenaline kind of things, but things that may scare you a little bit. Like, if you're afraid of heights but they love zip lining and they really want to share that experience with you, they may like playfully tease you a little bit in a flirting way to get you to do that activity with them. Or if you're someone who, you know, has some social anxiety and they really love dancing, you know, like, they may try to like encourage you to at least go to a social event that has dancing. Like, even if you're not comfortable with dancing, at least go to the function and have a good time. You know, like, they don't push you too much, but it's like just enough to get you to like consider doing things that are outside of like your normal comfort zone. Okay, I do think they're good for you in that way. Okay, let's continue onward here. Because you do want someone that pushes you to grow in some ways. Because you're going to do the same for them with the Two of Cups. Like, everything is going to be balance. Like, there will be ways in which you push them outside of their normal comfort zone as well. We've got support. Yes. Like, I just feel like such a coziness here. Like the way that they flirt with you just feels so supportive. Like this person will definitely give you lots of compliments. They will say things that will boost your self-esteem here. They will do things that are just very gently reassuring. Like if they can see that you're worried, they'll put a hand, you know, on like the small of your back kind of thing, or they will squeeze your hand if they're holding your hand. Yeah, there's so much here about mutual respect. And they're definitely going to have that energy of like soul family, and they're repeating fours here, going to make you feel very stable and very secure. And even just the way that they're like gently holding their hand up, like it just feels like they know how to be very soft with you in their approach. And you can tell like how did these cards lay out, right? Like the heartbreak is in the past here, like we're leaving that behind. And I think the way that they flirt with you helps you mend your heart. You know, I do feel like you've done a lot of inner work, you've done a lot of healing, but there's only so far that we can go on our own, right? Like we are meant to learn through our connections with other people. So, you know, like maybe there's some scar tissue that hasn't fully like integrated, you know, like maybe you've like stitched up your wounds, but there's still, you know, healing. And yeah, I think they're gonna help you with that final process of mending your heart. Okay, let's get into, I want to use this deck next. Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? Pile 1, what do we need to know? Sorry, I think there's a plane going by. I hope you can't hear that. Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? Yes, like they're gonna be so cautious and so gentle in their approach to you. Like they're gonna understand, like it's almost like in the beginning you're so like hyper vigilant for red flags, and you're like trying to find the red flags, trying to look for them, and your future spouse isn't giving you any, and so they're like all white flags, and so you're like, okay. You know, but they like pick up on that. Like they pick up on the fact that you've been through a lot of karmic connections and cycles, and you know, like they understand that, like even if you don't open up to them right away, they just pick up on it energetically, and so they're just treating you with like kid gloves, you know, like they're just being very gentle and soft in their approach with you. You could be meeting them in the winter season or during the months of December, January, or February. You know, I know it's not winter everywhere during those months, so that could be significant. I also think of the winter season like you're kind of like in the winter of your life, you know, like you've let go of those karmic connections in the fall, you know, in autumn, you've released it, and now in winter, everything's barren, it's dark. With the moon, like, you know, it's the darkest of seasons, and you're like, okay, what's next? You know, like what's gonna bloom in the spring? You're like, what's next? What's next? And this person is, you know, what's next. So you can meet them in the winter, and I wouldn't even be surprised if this ends up being like a friends to lovers kind of thing. That wouldn't surprise me at all given the messages that we've received so far. Definitely this could unfold like your friends in the winter, and in the spring, that is when you're in an exclusive relationship with them, that kind of thing. Yeah, I feel like there's such a wariness, like there's such a heavy energy, like you're trying to be hopeful, but you're like, when am I gonna meet this person? When is this gonna be a thing? Intuition, yeah. I do feel like you're a very intuitive person, but it's almost like you discount your own intuition. Like you don't see it. You don't realize the depths of your intuition and your own power. And you haven't trusted, like your intuition has never led you wrong. It's just that at times in your life you chose to suppress it. I think from a place of fear, of like thinking you were choosing the safer option, but really you were making a fear-based decision, and the safe option ended up not being safe at all. And so now you're kind of left wondering, like, well, what kind of person am I meant to be with? Like, what was the point to all this pain and hurt? Like, Spirit, what's the greater plan here? What is it? It's your life partner. It's your life partner. It's the love of a lifetime. It's a stable connection. Like, that's where you were being guided towards. And you're going to have clarity on this. I think there's going to be a moment when you're dating them where it all clicks into place for you. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, I see the greater plan now. I see why I was shown those type of people in the past. I see now why I was put through those karmic cycles. Like, I get it now, and it was preparing me for this connection. Because I think there's going to be a moment where you kind of realize, I wouldn't have been ready for this person before. If I had met this person a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago, I would not have been ready for this person. I get it now, Spirit. It's almost like you kind of have to take a moment and pause and express gratitude to Spirit for divine timing. And there may even be, like, as you get to know them and they open up to you about their experiences, you're going to see, like, okay, I see now, when I was ready, they weren't ready, and Spirit had to prepare us to be in alignment with one another. And so it's almost like you're finally understanding the lesson of patience and divine timing. It's all going to click into place for you, and it's all going to make sense. And so I think that as a result of getting to know this person, your spiritual practice and your connection to Spirit is really going to deepen. I feel like you are going to really up level in your connection to Spirit. That's an aside message. I know that's a higher level message, but it's a very exciting one to hear. And I'm very happy for you, Pile 1. Like, very happy for you. Yeah, like, I love this group's energy. Like, everything about this group is just beautiful. I'm really excited for you. Okay, let's continue onward. Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? Pile 1, how will your future spouse flirt with you? You can see they're dancing there too. Someone doesn't like to dance, and their future spouse is going to get them to dance. I swear to you. Pile 1. Yep. Some of you have really dealt with people who operated in a distorted masculine energy, and it has made you maybe even like hate anything, or be afraid or fearful of anything that's masculine, and maybe you've just like pushed that energy out of your life, as it does feel like you kind of present with a more divinely feminine energy. And remember, we're not talking about gender, we're just talking about energy. But I feel like this person is going to come in and kind of restore your faith in masculinity, and the idea that people can be in a masculine energy and not hurt you, and not take advantage of you, or not, act in a way that suppresses or oppresses your divine feminine energy. Like, you can feel safe to be in your divine feminine energy, and they can express their divine masculine energy, and it's not going to be distorted or unhealthy or restrictive, I think, to you. And so this person can hold open doors, and this person can bring you flowers and pay for dinner, and they can insist upon walking you to the door at the end of your date, and they can save the day for you and help you and fix things for you and do all of that, and still respect your autonomy and still treat you like an equal and still give you your freedom. And okay, now the sirens are going off. I live near a fire station, so I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do about it. Like, the fire station is like not even a mile down the road, so I'm sorry about that. But yes, so I think this person is quite traditional, and again, that may be something very different to what you're used to, but I think you're going to be surprised at how nice this energy ends up being, and how comforting it ends up being, and yet it doesn't take away your freedom, or you know, there's nothing in this where this person has like a power trip and, you know, they do things so they can hold it over your head later. That's not their energy. You know, they do things from a place of goodness in their heart and because they care about you and they love you and they want to be with you, and not because they're trying to control or manipulate you, or because they see you as like a prize to be won and then discarded. You know, it's not like that. They're not operating from a place of ego. Pile 1, I wouldn't mind having your future spouse. Okay, we have dating here. You see how, I'm sorry, this is like bothering me. You see how like even here, like he's offering her roses like Romeo and Juliet, you know, like he's like a gentleman caller coming to pay his respects, you know, like it's very traditional. And not to say that he's literally going to do this, your future spouse. And I'm saying he just because this is depicting a man, but your future spouse can be of any gender identity. But yes, it does feel like they're very much like when they're flirting with you, they like offer you things physically, like they offer you a gift, a token of their appreciation is coming, like that phrase is being put forth like a tribute to the queen or the king. Like, here, I have this offering for you. Like, I was thinking about you the other day and I bought you, I don't know, these like fresh blueberry muffins because I remember you saying that you love blueberries. I don't know, but they offer you things. Like they could make you things. Like if there's someone who builds things, they could offer you things. They could even like, I could see this person in some aspects being like very like gender conforming in some respects, but then there's some aspects to them that surprises you. Kind of like, okay, I'm gonna bring a gift to the door because, and this is just an example, again, like your future spouse can be of any gender identity, but let's just say they are a man. So, you know, they're gonna plan a date, take you out on a date, so they come up to your door, you know, they don't text you from the car or like honk the horn or anything rude. They come to the door and they have a gift because they're very traditional and you gotta come with a gift. But it's not a gift that they bought for you. They actually baked you muffins. You know, like they remember you saying that you love blueberries. They baked you homemade from scratch blueberry muffins. So on like one aspect, it's very gender conforming that as the man, they, you know, plan the date, they pick you up, they come to the door, they have a gift. But on the other hand, you know, women are thought to be the ones who cook and bake and things like that. You know, if we're talking about stereotypical gender roles here. And so in some aspects, they're like very gender conforming, and in other aspects, they're not, and it's kind of surprising to you. But yes, so apply that as it resonates. Like if you're interested in a woman, you can flip that script. Or, you know, if your future spouse ends up being like non-binary, then that could also make sense of like why they like flip between these different roles. But yes, so I think it's going to be quite surprising to you how you end up enjoying this, because it really feels like to me like they seek to cater to you and they are very mindful of your comfort level. Okay. I kind of feel like we should add an extra element to this reading. Why don't we use our little grab bag? Let's use this, and this will end out your reading. So there's like physical traits in here, love languages, job, career, like personality traits. So we'll just see what we get. Pile 1's future spouse. Who are they, Spirit? What do we need to know Pile 1, who is their future spouse? Pile 1. Okay. Sorry, it was just feeling a little incomplete. So let's just add an extra element here. They are very empathetic. That makes a lot of sense. Like, they're gonna be so sweet about your past and what you've been through, and so understanding. Wine and dine and a proper courtship. That is like everything that we've been saying. Okay, thank you, Spirit, for that confirmation. They can be very spontaneous. I like that. Okay, they're of an average height, so they're not like exceptionally short or exceptionally tall. They're a good cook. Oh my gosh, we just said, oh my gosh, I love this. Thank you. See, this is why I was feeling called to use the grab bag. All right, it says love language is acts of service. We talked about that. We said they really want to take care of you. They have like mom or dad vibes. Okay, they have great eyebrows. All right, pile 1, this was your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope you enjoyed it. If you skipped the intro, I did ask for feedback in the comments, like whether you prefer short to the point intros, or if you would like me to chat more with you guys in the intro, or if you would like a deeper explanation or walkthrough of the readings, like how they're gonna play out. So I would appreciate some feedback on that in the comments, because I've been noticing, like, compared to other YouTubers that I watch, I feel like my intros are very short. And so I just want to make sure that, like, you know, you guys aren't wanting longer intros and I'm not doing them, you know? So feedback is much appreciated. Yes, so please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if the reading resonated and you enjoyed it. It helps me out a lot. I'm really trying to grow our community here. I would love to be able to do this as like my main job, and then I can make more videos. I really want to start a Patreon once I graduate with my master's and I have some more free time on my hands. So please let me know. Or what was I gonna say? Oh, I'm like losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm just like on kind of a high from your reading. Like, I just love this energy so much. It made me smile so much. I'm like so excited for you and like what is to come. And depending upon where you live, I mean, well, we did get the months of December and January and February. So regardless of where you live, like, that's coming up. So if you meet this person in those months, like, I'm gonna be over the moon for you. It could be talking about next year, of course, but for your sake, I really hope it's like the upcoming December, January, February. But anyways, yes, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you always know when I upload. Don't forget to check out those intuition check videos. You know, if you're feeling a little bit off or disconnected from your intuition, that could help you flex that muscle a little bit. Of course, watching pick a card readings is also a really great way to strengthen your connection to your intuition. And yeah, I will see you all in my next one, and best of luck to you. And you know, if you have been going through a really difficult time, or even if you're in a karmic connection now and you're not sure how to leave or how to close it out, you know, if there's some extenuating circumstances, like, my heart goes out to you. I definitely understand that. You know, life can be really messy sometimes, but just keep doing your best, hang in there. Spirit has your back, and your future spouse's higher self, I believe, is fully with you right now. And if you need to take some time to talk to them, you know, like, you can free write, you can pray to them if that resonates with you, you can just talk aloud to them. I'm sure that they're listening and that they would like to hear from you. And yeah, I will see you all in my next one. Best of luck to you in all aspects of your life. Take care, Pile 1. Hi, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading. So if you chose the High Priestess card, you are in the right place. So we're actually going to start with your dice today, and then we will get in your tarot and your oracle messages. Now, I will say, like, as I was rolling your dice, I always do this before I start the reading because I don't want the noise to be super loud, especially if you're, watching this with earbuds in. But I heard the phrase, first they're sweet, or no, how does it go? First they're sour, then they're sweet, like the Sour Patch Kids advertisement. Like, I think there's something here about a push and a pull. Like with the High Priestess card here and the pomegranates, like I think of the Hades and Persephone. Like, I feel like there's something there about your future spouse being super playful and teasing, and kind of like they don't tease you in a way where it's like immature or childish. It's just very like fun and flirtatious, and kind of like an enemies to lovers dynamic where they may like shade you a little bit, but you know that they're just playing. And because they're so intuitive with the High Priestess, like they know how far to push it. Like they know where that line is, that invisible line to where, this is playful and funny and charming versus this is just hurtful and mean-spirited. Like they know where that line is and they toe that line. Like with the Frog Prince here, like they definitely see you as their person right away and they're very much drawn to you, but they like to be a little bit, they like a little bit of tension here. I think there's a lot of sexual tension going on, quite frankly. Like the physical attraction is immediate and like off the charts, and I feel like it's almost like your future spouse doesn't quite know how to handle all of that unresolved sexual tension in the beginning. And so this is how it manifests, is this like playful, biting energy. And so, like we have the poisoned apple here. Like there's a lot of temptation here, like physically. And so there's definitely, like, I think in the beginning of the connection, because there's all of this unresolved sexual tension, that they end up just teasing you and being playful. And I wouldn't say that they're acting like they're not interested or they're playing hard to get, because it's not like that. I think it's very obvious to everyone else in the room, probably to you as well, if you're an intuitive person, that they're into you. It's almost like the more that they tease you, the more that they're making it obvious that they're into you. I also feel like your future spouse is just a naturally like comedic, funny person, but they may have like a dry sense of humor or a sarcastic kind of humor. Again, it's not mean-spirited, and I think it's quite clever and intelligent humor. Like you definitely have to be smart to get it, or you have to be listening to get it. Yeah, it's definitely witty and clever energy, because we have the third house here, and this is ruled by Gemini and Virgo. And then we also have, not Virgo. We have the third house ruled by Gemini, and then we have Virgo energy next to it. Sorry, I misspoke there. So there's a lot here about them being really great at communication. And so I think that they use that to their advantage because they're such a strong speaker, and they are charming, and they are very like charismatic in that manner. Because of that, like they know how to use their words to their advantage, and they know exactly, like, again, how far to push it, like what is funny and what is mean, like they know the difference between that, and they know how to manipulate their language in a way that shows that they're interested in you without without being like, it's kind of like they're not using flattery. Like there's something so like honest and authentic about this person. Like even though they're being playful and being funny, they're being more honest and authentic because they're not just telling you what you want to hear. Like they are definitely like kind of like they're goading you a little bit, like, because everything they're saying is very truthful. They're kind of like, it's funny, it's like, I think you're gonna like being called out by this person. Like I think you're gonna like that they put you in your place a little bit, because maybe you are a very attractive person and you're very used to people seeking you out or bending over backwards trying to get your attention. And this person is taking a very different approach to that, you know, like they're not just telling you everything that you want to hear or everything they think you want to hear. You know, they're not just playing to your ego. They're not just complimenting you for the sake of getting on your good side, you know, like everything they're saying is very truthful, but they're calling you out, you know, like they're putting you in your place. And I don't think you're used to that. And I think that it's kind of a little bit addictive, you know, like you're very into it. Because this is like, you know, Hades and Persephone, like they rule the underworld together. Like that's a darker kind of romance, right? But they are equals, right? And they are kind of like an odd couple. She was the daughter of harvest. Like she was, you know, she's the reason why we have the winter season. Like her mother is in mourning because she's not with her, because she's ruling the underworld. Her time is like split between being with her mother and being with Hades. And so yeah, it definitely feels like there's a little bit here of an enemies to lovers kind of thing, but in a sense of like you're never truly enemies because you know that they're into you. Like that's very obvious. Like if we were reading your love story as a book, it would be very obvious to every reader that you guys were endgame. Yeah, I feel like you might complain about this person to your friends, but it's very obvious that you're into them. Like everyone else can see it. And you may be the last to know, or you may be in on the game. You know, it might depend upon your personality, but I definitely feel like you enjoy that dynamic. And I think you're an intelligent person yourself. And so, you know, the kind of wordplay that you guys have with each other, I think is quite intellectually like stimulating, you know. And so you have this like crazy intense immediate physical attraction, but then there's also that intellectual stimulation that I think you're going to enjoy. And with the dove here bringing the symbol of peace, the olive branch, right? Like there may be like a little bit of a moment where you have to say like, okay, like let's stop messing around, or they may say that to you, like let's stop messing around and just be together already. Like let's just stop pretending that we're, you know, like let's just stop fussing with each other and, you know, get this thing going. You know, like there just may be a moment where you're having like this stupid fake argument that neither one of you like really cares about, but you just like to fuss with each other, you know, like you like that back and forth, you like the witty banter. That's why I said it's reminding me of enemies to lovers, because it's like that witty banter back and forth, like, you know, you're getting on to each other and then you kiss. You know, like that, you know, like it's just that moment. It feels very much like a rom-com like movie moment where, you know, the two main like love interests, the protagonists, they're fighting, but they're not really fighting. And as the audience, you're like, oh my gosh, like just kiss already, just get together already. And then they do. Then they have that, you know, then they have that big moment where they finally kiss. That's how it feels like it's gonna unfold. And with Pluto here, like again, like Scorpio energy, like the physical attraction, I feel like it's like you don't know what to do with it. Like it's too big, it's too heavy, it's too much. Like you were too attracted to this person, and I think it's driving you crazy, it's driving them crazy, and yeah, like you just need to resolve it. Is really what it is. And with that Virgo energy, like Virgo can be a little bit critical. And so I do think that your future spouse may have a side to them where they're a bit of like a perfectionist, or they like things a certain way, and that may be like where you like tease or joke with them and you like mess things up for them. Like if they're super organized and like type A and you're really laid back, and you can flip this, you know, like if I'm picking up on your energy, feel free to flip this, but you may come through and like maybe they've just organized something perfectly. Like if you work together, maybe they have organized their desk perfectly and you come by and you just move their pen a little bit. You know, like you just mess up something slightly on their desk, and you know it's gonna drive them crazy, like because they just, you know, like you mess with them a little bit, like you like to mess with each other. And so yeah, that energy may come forward as well. And it's funny because like I feel like there's so much here about you two fantasizing about each other, and when you flirt with one another, it's like, you see the bubbles here? It's like all that sexual tension is just bubbling beneath the surface. This energy is so like so funny to me. And yeah, I feel like it's like a big question mark. It's like you're baiting each other, like you're pushing each other because you want the other person to break before you do. Like you want them to cop to feelings before you cop to feelings. And it could even be that you guys are friends, but you're the kind of friends who like to argue. Kind of like when Harry Met Sally, if you guys have ever watched that movie, it's kind of like that. Like you just like to argue and disagree all the time, but you're like best friends. You know, it's like that kind of energy, which would explain a lot. And then with the ogre here, this always reminds me of Shrek. Like, you know, like Shrek and Fiona would fight and fuss and then they end up getting married. Like that's kind of the energy here. Yeah, so it's just like a question mark. Like you know how they feel, they know how you feel, but you're not willing to be the first person to admit to feelings, and it just gets to a point of like ridiculousness until there's like this climactic moment where you finally kiss and it finally comes together. But I think if we're talking about how you're flirting with one another, it is absolutely like verbally sparring with one another, joking each other, teasing, messing with each other. There's something about them that brings out like the kid in you and the kid in them because it's so playful. And I think that you guys both have a similar sense of humor and you just get each other. And I think that you're very like psychically connected here because you would kind of have to be like to have this dynamic. You kind of have to be soulmates, to be quite frank, because you have to have that psychic connection with the high priestess. There has to be an intuitive connection to be able to keep this up and not hurt somebody's feelings, you know, to have it remain playful and fun. There has to be that psychic connection because, you know, like not everybody can handle like this amount of like teasing and joking around and not get a bit sensitive or in their feelings about it. Okay, I'm gonna move this to the side. I loved pile 1, but I am really loving the energy of this group as well, I have to say. All right, we're shuffling on camera today. We're gonna use the Pastel Journey Tarot. So pile 2, what do we need to know about how your future spouse will flirt with you? This reading also, like, I know the question is very basic and I have so many oracle decks to use with you all, and then we're also going to use our little, if I can get a hold of it. Oh no, it's stuck on the plate. Hold on, guys. Oh man, and now I have dropped all the tarot cards. I'm going to have to cut this out. Okay, I was being dramatic. I didn't drop that many, okay? We're also going to use the grab bag at the end of your reading, but anyway, so I definitely foresee that we'll get more messages about this connection, like just beyond like how they're going to flirt with you. Pile 1 got a lot of messages, so kind of how they will flirt with you is more of the starting place of this reading. I'm sure we'll get more messages is what I'm trying to say. All right, pile 2. How will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 2. How will your future spouse flirt with you? And this is a very like specific dynamic. So if it's not resonating, you know, feel free to select a different group. All right, pile 2. We have the World card. Pile 2. We have the Ace of Swords. Is anyone surprised to see that card? Because I'm not. Like, there's so much here about communication. We have the Princess of Cups. I love her. And we have the Nine of Pentacles here. All right. So, actually, yeah, I am feeling called to talk about this bottom of the deck. We have the Eight of Swords. I do feel like if you kind of feel like people don't really get your sense of humor, or if you have to tiptoe around people sometimes because you know there's some aspect of your way of communicating that gets misunderstood, or people don't really get your sense of humor, or you feel like you have to walk on eggshells with certain people. That is not going to be the case with your future spouse, and this could be their energy as well, but your future spouse is just going to get your vibe, and you're going to get theirs like really off the bat, like immediately. And so I feel like that is part of the appeal here, part of the attraction, is that you just get to be yourself, and you don't have to be so sensitive, and you don't have to be so mindful of how you're coming across, and you don't have to be so worried that you're gonna hurt their feelings, or that they're gonna misunderstand your intentions, or like you just don't have to be political correctness is coming to mind, but it's not really like political correctness. It's like social correctness. Like, you don't have to be socially correct. Like, you can just be yourself, say how you feel, say the first thing that comes to mind. You can say that like intrusive thought, and it doesn't matter. Like, they can handle it and you can handle theirs, and you can just be authentically yourself. Like, I think that sense of freedom is so intoxicating. Like, you cannot hurt this person's feelings with what you're saying. Like, they just don't take things to heart in that manner. And like, it's like, because they know your heart, like psychically, intuitively, they know your heart and you know theirs, and you probably have shared past lives together. Like, it really feels like a soulmate connection, because you know that. You just know where that invisible line is, and you never have to worry about crossing it. So you can just express yourself freely, and they're gonna get it, and you're gonna get, their vibe, and it's all right. Like, you don't have to feel so constrained. You don't have to feel like you're walking on eggshells. You can just be your messy self, be your messy, authentic self. And not to say that like you're messy, but like we all have that, right? Like, it's kind of like that energy of like when you're with, like, how you feel like when you're at home and you're in your own space, and you can kind of just let that version of yourself that you have to present to the world, the version that's very poised and like, socially correct. Like, when you come home and you unwind at the end of a long day, and you're like, like you breathe that sigh of relief. Some of you are introverts. You breathe that sigh of relief, and you get to settle into your own energy, and you feel all comfortable and free, and like, that's kind of like what it's like being with this person. Like, you don't have to put up a facade. You don't have to put your best foot forward. You don't have to do anything to impress them. Like, it's, like if you're getting ready for a date and you're trying to get into that, like, the best version of yourself, you want to put your best foot forward. You're trying to show like the most polished version of yourself, right? Like the most likable version of yourself. There's none of that. Like, there's no need to prepare for anything. Like, you're just yourself. And I feel like that feels so liberating. And that's kind of the dynamic here. And I think that's what draws you in. And that's kind of how you guys flirt and interact with one another, is that you don't have to think about it so much. Like, you see how she's like texting here? Like, there's nothing about the interactions with you guys when you're flirting where you're crafting responses. Like, you're not sitting there thinking like, okay, but if I say this, are they gonna take it this way? Or asking your friend like, what do I say? They just said this, like, what do I say? Like, there's none of that. Like, you don't have to consult with anybody. You don't have to think twice about it. If they say something, you say something back. Like, it's just an automatic response. Like, you don't have to be in your head so much with this connection, and I think that's gonna feel very liberating to you. Again, with that Ace of Swords, like, you guys just cut through to the truth of the matter. Like, you guys just say what you think, how you feel, and yeah, there's nothing artificially constructed here. Now, to get into other messages, like aside from that, with the Nine of Pentacles here, I definitely feel like part of the appeal here is that your future spouse is very much like financially stable and has their ducks in a row and is very put together, because we have that Virgo energy come forward in the beginning. Like, I think that's what is so nice. Like, you guys bring out this like playful side to one another, and you're kind of bickering like kids almost, you know, and you're having fun with it and joking and teasing each other. But your future spouse is someone like practically on paper that makes sense for you. Like, they are very much like smart and driven and ambitious and hardworking, and they have a lot of financial resources and stability, and they would make a good partner, they would make a good parent, you know. And so they are appealing to both your heart but also your logical, rational mind. And I think that makes you feel more certain about the connection, because it does feel like they're the full package. And I think that when they are flirting with you and you guys do finally like have that moment where you kiss, or, you know, someone makes a move, you know, you finally get past that point, I do think that when you're dating them, they are going to want to invest in you. They are going to invest time and effort and money into you, and you're gonna see that. You know, you're gonna see that they are making an effort, planning dates, taking you to nice places, or you know, planning creative dates, putting a lot of thought into the things that they buy you, you know, stuff like that. I feel like is really going to check off some of those boxes for you. Give me a second, I'm gonna get a sip of coffee here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, and I also feel like you're kind of, during this point in time, you may be a bit distracted. I do feel like the energy here is so intense that when you are in that flirting, getting to know each other phase, or if this is someone from your past, like getting to know each other again kind of thing, I really feel like you're kind of almost gonna be annoying like to the people around you, because it's so clear that your head and your heart are somewhere else. Like, I definitely feel like you're gonna be daydreaming a lot about this person. They're gonna be intruding into your thoughts a lot. Like, you'll be trying to focus on your work, or focus on your lunch date with a friend, and instead you're thinking about this person. Like, I definitely feel like they just have a hold on you. Like, you can't let them go. Like, they just, yeah, I feel like you are going to be quite enamored with them right away. And I feel like that physical attraction is going to morph into a sort of, yeah, like you've met your intellectual match, and then that is going to also develop into a sense of companionship and friendship, and then yeah, like, and then all the while, like, again, there's all this unresolved sexual tension, like, bubbling beneath the surface kind of thing. Okay, let's get into the archetype cards. So we are going to find out which archetype best represents, like, how your future spouse is going to flirt with you. So let's get into that. I also feel like you are just going to be very attracted to this person's mind and the way that they think, and I feel like when they're sitting there talking to you about stuff that they're interested in and things that they're knowledgeable about, I think that's really going to turn you on, because I do think you're attracted to a smart, intelligent person and someone who is good at conversation. So I feel like that's really going to appeal to you a lot. I also think there's something about this person's style, because there's a lot of physical attraction here. Something about this person's style and the way that they smell. Like, I think it's not just the way that they look, but the way that they put the whole package together that's, like, very appealing to you. All right, pile. Oh, the Mystic. The Mystic is my favorite archetype. Like, I just love her so much. Yeah, I definitely feel like, It says revels in intimate union with the divine. Yeah, I feel like your future spouse definitely has like high priestess and mystic energy. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like this person is so tuned in. Like, even if they wouldn't identify themselves as a spiritual person, they still have that ability. Like, even if they haven't tapped into it, they still have that connection to spirit. And so I think this is what makes them so good. Like, they kind of have this energy where they seem like very sweet and cute and, you know, like pretty attractive, handsome, whatever terminology you want to use, but there is a sweetness to them. Like, first they're sour, then they're sweet. Like, there is a sweetness to them that doesn't really match up sometimes with the way that they with what they say or how they act. Okay, I'll give a personal example. Like, sometimes I think that my voice is like very sweet, and or at least I've been told that. Like, you may be watching this and like, you don't have a sweet voice. I've been told by people, I've been told that I have a sweet sounding kind of like girly voice, right? And the way that I look younger than I am, and yeah, I definitely present in like a feminine way. And you know, some of like the hair accessories and stuff I wear is like quite feminine and girly. And I think because of that and the stereotypes that people have around femininity, people kind of think that maybe like I'm like a pushover, I guess. And definitely in like work dynamics, I think people have been a bit surprised by my bite. Because I definitely, like, if it comes to clients on my caseload, because I work as a counselor, if it comes to something with that especially, I will absolutely advocate for myself and advocate for the client. Like, if it is especially a situation where I feel like a client is being mistreated or their self-determination is not being respected, that is just a trigger for me. Like, I absolutely, and in a respectful way, but I'm not gonna back down. And I definitely have had supervisors who definitely were underqualified for their position, and they were not respectful of that. Like, they just, I guess, thought that I was gonna be someone they could walk all over, and I'm like, no. Like, you are not doing this to me, and you're not doing this to my client. And it's just like, this is, you know, and I've had to speak up in a full treatment team meeting, a whole audience watching, and say no to my supervisor. Like, I've had to draw that line and say no, and, you know, and be in that masculine energy. And I think that people didn't expect that from me, that I could pull into that energy, but I can when I need to. And I'm very outspoken. And I think that especially if your future spouse is an introvert as well, like, people, again, may not expect them to have that side to them, but I also think that you provoke that side to them. Like, it's almost like they're a spiritual kind of person, but then they have this fire to them. Like, and I'm a Leo, so it's kind of like that. Like, you have this fire to you that, or I'm sorry, your future spouse has this fire to them that can be provoked, and that people don't expect. It's like people underestimate them, but they will get with you. So, or maybe some aspect to the way that your future spouse presents, or something about their voice being soft, or something about them just seeming sweet and innocent, but really, like, they will get you together. Like, they are not one to be trifled with. They are not one to be walked over. Like, they have this spicy, fiery side to them that can come forward when they need it. And I think that you're gonna like that. Like, you're gonna like that there is this duality to this person, that there is this fire, but there's also this water and this sensitivity to them. And so they do have that balance within them, and they do, I think, really balance out really well the masculinity and the divine femininity very well. But yeah, I do think that, and I think part of the mystic energy is that you don't let people get you out of your energy. Like, you don't let people kind of like, I'm gonna say what I have to say, you know, I'm gonna let that fire out, and then once it's on the table, I'm gonna come back to my center and I'm gonna come back to my energy. Like, you know, and the chips can fall wherever they need to fall, but internally I'm good with me because I, you know, like I spoke up. And I think that's, you know, that could be a lesson that your future spouse has had to learn. It's definitely one that I had to learn. Like, your inner peace cannot come at the expense of maintaining external peace. Like, if you have to have more conflict in your life to retain that inner peace, it is so much better to speak up for yourself or speak up for someone else. You know, if you feel like there's an injustice, it's so much better to speak your truth and to know that you did the right thing rather than to keep quiet, take the path of least resistance, and, you know, mind your P's and Q's and stay quiet. Because what ends up happening is that you end up being mad at yourself later on for not speaking up, and then you have resentment towards yourself because you know you didn't do the right thing, and you know that even though everyone still likes you and everyone still thinks you're super nice, you know, you're not really being nice. You know, you're just giving them what they want. And, you know, sometimes that means that you don't speak up when you should. And so it's so much better to just do what you have to do to be right with you. You know, you want to be able to look in the mirror and like what you see. And so I think your future spouse has learned that lesson. I know I'm getting off a little bit on a tangent here, but I think it's important to understand this aspect of your future spouse's personality, because they do, like, they have that bite to them. Like, they have that sweetness, but they have that bite. And they are not someone who can be taken out of their energy very easily. And they absolutely will do and say what they think is right. Like, you see how she's putting up this hand here. Like, this is someone, I think, who, again, even if they wouldn't identify as a spiritual person, their guides work very closely with them. And their guides are absolutely, like, protecting them. Like, they do have a strong sense of intuition and connection to spirit, even if they're not consciously aware of it. Okay, I feel like I've gone on and on about this now. So let's continue forward. So yes, in terms of how they flirt with you, intuitively, they know where that line is and they know how far to push it. And I think that you're going to be really drawn to that duality within them. Okay, we have trust here. Pile 2, how will your future spouse flirt with you? We have codependency. It did come out in the reverse. I kind of think that this is what's kind of cool to me here, is that with this trust and with this codependency card, the way that it's being presented to me is that you can trust that no matter how far you go from me, no matter how much space we give each other, we will always kind of have that red string of fate. Like, we will always have this connection to each other. And so there's never any need for me to chain you here. Kind of like, again, with like Hades and Persephone, like, I can trust, I can let you go back up to the, you know, the world, and I can let you be with your mother for half of the year, but I always know that you're gonna come back to me. Like, I always know that you're gonna return to me, so you can go how far you need to go. I can give you all the freedom and space in the world and not have any fear about it. And so I feel like that trust between you two is kind of, you know, in most relationships, like, you have to build trust. And I'm not saying that you're not going to build trust, but it's like your higher selves, like on an intuitive, like, psychic level here, it's almost like your higher selves already have this agreement. Like, there's already a soul contract here that says we can go so far and we will always be reunited. Like, we will always come back together. And this may be someone that you have shared like multiple past lives with, and you may have future reincarnations together. Like, this may just be like your person for multiple lifetimes. And I know that's a very higher level message, but I mean, there's so much. Like, you did pick the High Priestess, so cut me a break. And this could be like someone from your past that you were separated from, and like maybe you knew them like 10 years ago, and then you get to know each other again somehow, you're reunited, and there's like you know, like some sort of like divine intervention with that, some sort of fated event. But it does feel like there's a red string of fate here. Like it does feel like, and that's probably why you're able to kind of flirt the way that you do, because just intuitively, like, you know, this is your person. And so you don't have to be so worried about how you're coming across. You don't have to be self-conscious, you know, and that is so freeing, I think, to feel that you can just be yourself. And, you know, that's all parts of you. That's your shadow side too. You can be completely yourself. You can let your flaws, you can let your shadow out, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to change how this person feels about you. And it's the same for them. Like, it's very mutual here. Actually, I think I want to let's get these cards first. Okay, so pile 2, how will your future spouse flirt with you? What do we need to know? Pile 2, what do we need to know? Pile 2. Pile 2, pile 2, what do we need to know? Pile 2. Sorry if you guys can hear the plane going by. We have judgmental. You guys are just so funny. Like, stop. Like, it's just, you have trust as your bottom of the deck. So now we've gotten trust twice. Like, this is really what it is that you don't, like, there's no need to try to be anything more than what you are. Like, this person is just so completely and totally accepting of you. Like, they can handle the very worst parts of you. And we all have them, right? Like, we all have aspects of ourselves that we may not even be aware of, depending upon like where we're at in like our self-development and like our self-awareness. I'll give an example. Like, I can be kind of bossy and a little bit, especially in terms of like, I like things to be neat and clean. Like, I like everything to be organized, and I like everything to look pretty in my space. Like, home is everything to me, and if like my external environment doesn't look neat and orderly, it stresses me out. Like, my mental health is definitely lower when I have lived with messy people. Like, it just stresses me out. Like, I get that from my mom. Her moon is in Virgo. Like, I can't stand it. I cannot stand to be living in chaos and dysfunction. It like irritates me, and I get snippy when I have to live in that. Like, I just don't like dirtiness, like open packages of food. Like, that's disgusting, and it brings out a very like judgmental side to me. And so like when I saw that card, it made me think of that. And so your future spouse, like, they can handle that side to you. Like, if you have a side to yourself where you know, like, oh, that's a pet peeve for me, like, that's a trigger for me, like, that brings out, that provokes like the meanest side to me, like, your future spouse can handle that. Like, I think there's gonna be a moment, like, when you guys are getting to know each other, or like if you're reuniting, if this is someone from your past, you know, you may have a day where you were just kind of mean. You know what I mean? Like, when you are just so irritated, you're so frustrated, you're just kind of hateful that day, like you're in a bad mood, and this person just takes it. Like, they just kind of diffuse all of that energy. Like, there's just something about them that brings you back to center. And I think you're gonna really, really appreciate that even on your worst day, this person will still love you. Like, that is quite incredible. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's not to say, like, we all have those days, right? Like, it's not like a green light for you to treat them like trash, but like, we all have those days, right? Like, we're not our best selves, you know, days where we're like, yeah, like, I may have overreacted. Maybe I acted out of my normal character. You know, like maybe I shouldn't have cursed that the dishes were sitting in the sink for 2 days. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can definitely think about days when like I've just been so irritated that the shoes were not put on the shoe rack and I keep tripping over them and I just throw them across the room because I can't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Like that kind of energy, like you're just fed up with something. And it's, you know, I think that you're gonna have a moment when you've been like really stressed to the max and you've been pushed and that shadow side is out and you're just like, ah! And your future spouse can just handle it and doesn't think any less of you for it and doesn't judge you for it, even though you're kind of like judging yourself a little bit. Like, I think you're gonna feel just so held by that. You're just gonna feel so loved. And even if you're not in a full-on romantic relationship with them, and it is more of like at that friend getting to know each other stage, I think that is going to be a pivotal moment for you, like where you're like, wow, like if this person can love me on my worst day, if this person can show up for me on my worst day, if this person can handle me at my worst, at my darkest, most shadow side, that's love, right? Like that's what that is. And so that may be like an epiphany aha moment for you, because you can trust that they're going to catch you. Like no matter like, because the moon is here, right? Like the darkness, like you can just trust it. You can trust that this person can handle all of your emotional cycles, not just the ones that are easy to be around. And with this assertiveness here too, kind of reminds me of that energy we were picking up before where your future spouse can have bite when they need to. Like, I think you're going to be really attracted to this person when you see that side of them come out. Because I think, again, like you're really going to like that duality that they have. You're really going to be very much attracted to when they are in that energy of being kind of like a boss, you know, and like standing up for like what they believe in and speaking up for what is right and demanding a place at the table. You know, like you're gonna be very attractive to that assertive side to them. And I think also, you know, even when they're putting you in your place, like when they need to, I think that is going to be attractive to you, you know, like, because this person's not a doormat, you know, and that is attractive when someone is, you know, in their power. So my stomach is growling. I like fast in the mornings. I don't eat until 12. So I'm just like all coffee and like Spindrift sparkling water is like my favorite. It's a real problem. That and unsweet like black tea. But I just love that Spindrift, man. And I like wish it was like more affordable, and I wish that they sold it in larger cases at the grocery store. That's a whole tangent, but anyway, let's get into, I'm sorry, I'm getting like off track here. Yes, we're gonna do this deck now. It's like early in the morning too. Like I'm still drinking my coffee. I just told you it's before 12. I'm sorry. So be mindful. I'm a little bit silly sometimes in the mornings. I don't know what it is. All right. So pile 2. How will your future spouse flirt with you? Pile 2. What do we need to know here? Pile 2. I mean, if your future spouse is like a very spiritual person with Mystic and the High Priestess, they definitely could be. That may be something you have in common, like you both are into tarot or astrology or, you know, other occult related things. So I think that's going to be nice to have a shared interest like right off the bat, right? I am going to take this listen card that was on top. And this wanted to come out as well. Okay. Pile 2. How will your future spouse flirt with you? Pile 2. I think I want to get one more card. There we go. Yep. The Stormy card. Like, you guys, And then bottom of the deck, we have truth. You guys really do like the conflict. Like, and again, it's not serious arguments. It's not like, it's just fussing. You know, I was like grown up with fussing. Like my, I want to clarify like what I mean by this. So a little background on me. Like I was raised in a very like feminine environment. So at one point in my life, I had a lot of like, my childhood was unstable. Let's just say that. But I had a lot of different living situations when I was a kid. But there was one point where I was living with my mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother. So 4 generations all under one house. You know, all under one roof, I meant to say, not one house. And then my Aunt Robin also came over very frequently. And I lived with her at one point in my childhood as well. And so, like, having that many women together, all with different, very strong personalities and very different personalities, you can't get a word in. Like, and it is like constant, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And everybody is talking over one another, and you kind of like have to like assert yourself into the conversation or you will not be heard. And it's just, everyone's just fussing, and it's very like, no one's seriously mad. No one is actually angry, but everybody is like, you know, it's just, you know, it's just that dynamic. And so, you know, kind of like ironically with my mom when I was growing up, when we were getting along, because we have very different temperaments, when we were getting along was when we were fussing. Like if there was an actual argument, it was like dead silent on her end until she would blow up. You know, she was a big fan of the silent treatment and then out of nowhere blowing up on you. That was how she handled conflict. And so that, like, to me, like an expression of love is actually like, you know, because I kind of picked up on that when I was a kid, was like that fuss and that like back and forth, like giving each other a hard time, but we're just teasing. And so when I say fussing, I mean like teasing each other. And that was when we were getting along. And so sometimes, like, you know, when I was in high school, like my friends would be in the car with us and they would say, I can't believe you talk to your mom like that. I'm like, what do you mean? Because my mom had me when she was 19, so she was also a very young mother. And so she was kind of like my older sister in some ways. And so you can skip past all this, by the way, if you don't care. But so yes, so people are like, can't believe you talk to your mom like that. Or like, I thought you guys were like, and sometimes my stepdad would be like, I don't know whether I should like punish her or not. And my mom's like, we're not really arguing. But like other people would sometimes take it that way if it was different than what they were used to in their home. And so I kind of feel like you and your future spouse have this dynamic where you fuss. And I think that it's very obvious and clear to everybody that it's playful. But if it's very different than how other people are used to being with, you know, like if they're not used to that kind of witty back and forth, teasing, joking around energy, some people may not get it and think that you are actually arguing, but you're not. And so I think you guys like that. Like you like the fussing, you know, like kind of like you guys like, you know, like an old married couple. It's like you automatically have that dynamic, but again, in like a fun and playful way, not in like a bitter, mean way. And so I hope I'm making this dynamic clear to you and you don't think you're always going to be arguing with your future spouse and it's going to be miserable. Like I hope I'm explaining this accurately so you guys get it, because there's still like, there is still a feminine energy to this where it's very like soft and nurturing. Like it's, you know, like you wouldn't fuss with them if you didn't care. Like, you know, like there's still like that invested energy, like you care about each other. And so like I hope I made that distinction clear to you all. Now with this anxiety card, I do feel like there's like a little bit of, I don't know, like there's a little bit of drama here, but it's like over nothing. Like it really honestly reminds me of a lot of romance novels that I've read. And like romance novels, like I really like mysteries and thrillers. Like, that's typically what I love to read. But when you read those over and over again, especially like the ones that I read, like dark psychological thrillers and stuff, you kind of need like a palate cleanser after a while. Like, you need to read something like fluffy and sweet and, you know, just like quick and easy. And and every time I read a romance novel, I always get like frustrated because obviously the two characters are going to end up together and they should really just get over themselves and hurry up with it, but then there would be no story. And that's kind of what it feels like here. Like, if there is like any kind of like anxiety or drama over this, it's almost like everyone around you is rolling their eyes and they're like, obviously you guys are going to end up together, obviously you're soulmates, obviously you're going to get married to this person. Like, it's kind of, you know, it's the same thing like when you watch When Harry Met Sally. Like, everyone around them is like, oh my god, are you guys not together already? Like, get married, shut up, kiss each other. Like, that's kind of the energy here. Like, just like, get over it, like, get on with it. Like, you're obviously meant to be together. I'm sorry, but that's the message that's coming through. But yes, this person is very truthful to you. They're not just telling you what you want to hear. There's just such an honesty here. Like, they're very trustworthy. They're going to be faithful to you. And then with confession, like, it does feel like it's going to be that moment where it's like, okay, you gotta stop. Like, you gotta just admit that you have feelings for each other, because the sexual tension is just palpable. Like, everyone can tell. Like, you guys, come on. Like, that's kind of the energy here. With passion, like, I don't feel like I need to say it anymore. Like, you're very physically attracted to each other, very intellectually stimulated by one another. Like, it's just, and you may have never felt this way before, and that's why it's so overwhelming, and that's why the stakes feel so high, and you're like, like, I know this is what I asked for, but oh my gosh, like, now that it's here, like, I don't know what to do. And that probably is the issue. And with the intuition, like, listen card in the center here, it says, hear what they are really saying. Hear what they're really saying, because when this person speaks, there is a deeper meaning, right? There's like a double entendre, like there's a sub meaning here to what they're saying, you know? So there may be a point when you guys are talking to each other and they're saying one thing, but if you would connect to your intuition, you would understand there is a sub meaning there, which is that they want you and you're the one, okay? Like, you just gotta key into that, because I think it's just gonna reach a point to where someone has to confess, someone has to fess up to their feelings. And it may be that, you know, if you watch the movie When Harry Met Sally, keeps coming to mind, but you also could maybe meet this person during the autumn season, because that movie always makes me think of autumn straight off the bat. But they start off like bickering, like they don't really like each other. They're kind of forced into a situation together, and, you know, through like a mutual friend or whatever. And then they have a long period of time of separation, and then fate kind of puts them back together again, and then they develop a friendship. And so they start off kind of enemies, but not really. And then they have a separation, and then, you know, they develop a close friendship, but they just won't fess up to feelings. And then there's a moment where they physically get together, if you know what I mean. And then there's another miscommunication. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, just get together already. So it may be a little bit of a messy timeline here, but it kind of just depends upon how emotionally vulnerable you're willing to be. You know, like, just open up, because this could go a lot smoother if you would just let it. And it could be, I mean, it's on them too. It's not just on you. So just be mindful of that. Okay. All right. If you haven't seen When Harry Met Sally, I mean, obviously you have to watch that movie now, right? All right. So I didn't like that movie the first time I watched it. I could not get into it. And then I watched it recently, I don't know, a couple months ago, and loved it. So I really think this could definitely be someone from your past. I will say that. All right. Pile 2. That was a terrible shuffle. Pile 2. Better. All right, pile 2. How will your future spouse flirt with you? We've already answered this question ad nauseum, but okay. Yes, I love that this came out because they got the mystic. We had like the Princess of Cups, and then we had the High Priestess to start out with. All this divine feminine energy. And then we have now the divine masculine. Like, this person balances that energy so well. Like, they have both sides to them. And I think that you are just so enamored by that. Like, you just... I think it's just intoxicating to you. Like, you just love that they have this duality to them. And with Silver Waterfall, like, it's paradise. Like, I feel like if you're worried about how this is going to come to be, or like what your marriage is going to be like, the Silver Waterfall is like the 10 of Cups. It's like the Garden of Eden. It's like pure bliss, you know, two birds of a feather flocking together. Like, this is your soulmate, you know, like, this is it. And this is going to be, you know, like the love of a lifetime kind of energy here. And this is feeling like divine counterpart as well. You know, like your higher self could have come out in this reading as well. You may find some aspects of this reading resonate with you or sound like your energy, and it's probably because you two are going to be mirroring each other as well. I wouldn't be surprised by that. If that message resonates, you know, feel free to claim it. But yeah, you know, I really feel like in terms of how they flirt with you and how this comes to be, it's a lot about intellectual stimulation. And I think that you guys lean into that so much because the physical attraction is so overwhelming. And so I think it's almost like an unspoken agreement that, you know, you're going to be sometimes like verbally combative or teasing each other or joking with each other, because if not, the only other alternative is to start making out. Maybe you're not at that place yet. So yeah, I feel like that is used to diffuse some of that overwhelming sexual tension and physical attraction that you feel for one another. But eventually, like, you are gonna have to like give into that. So this isn't feeling like a traditional courtship, although when you have that like big moment where you do finally confess feelings or kiss or something like that, it doesn't mean that you can't then have a traditional courtship or that you won't want that. It will definitely, you know, like it can turn into that if that's what you're wanting. But I feel like at the start, you know, there may be a little bit of a journey here, you know, or a journey feels too long. Journey has like a process. Process is a better word. Scratch journey from your memory. Process. There may be a little bit of a process to this. Journey feels too long. Yeah, because I do feel like, honestly, there's only so much that you can deny the physical attraction that you feel. Because it is just bubbling to the surface. Like, if we look back at, you know, your dice here, that was this, right? Okay. So let's end your reading now with our little grab bag. So pile 2. This has like love languages in it, physical attributes, possible careers or personality traits, all that kind of stuff. And if something in this isn't resonating, just leave it because they are more specific messages. So pile 2, what do we need to know about their future spouse? Pile 2, please spirit. Pile 2's future spouse, who are they? What do we need to know? Pile 2. Okay. We have their love language is quality time. Like to see that. Quality time, I feel like, is such an underrated love language. Like, we have hard working. We picked that up with that Virgo energy. And I think you had the 9 of Pentacles too, so. They could have blue eyes. They could also have brown eyes. So we have a mixed group here, blue or brown eyes. And they could be more of an extrovert. I would say too, like, I know this says extrovert, but I could also see them being like a sociable introvert. I feel like that could also be a thing with this group. Okay. Because I do feel like as much as they like to talk, I feel like they also like to be in their own energy. So yeah, I definitely feel like they could be an extrovert, but they could also be like a sociable or talkative introvert. Okay. Like they can bring out different sides to themselves. This person feels very dynamic to me. All right, so pile 2, this was your reading. If you skipped the intro, I did ask if you guys don't mind giving me feedback in the comments. If you have a preference towards longer or shorter intros, because I've noticed like my intros are like very, well, I mean for them to be short and to the point, but I've noticed other videos on YouTube, like I watch tarot readings on YouTube. I'm definitely a fan of like several channels. I've noticed like they have longer intros and I'm like, am I being too short in my intros? Like, would you guys like me to like chit chat with you or give you more detailed explanations of the readings, like how they're gonna go? So just put down in the comments if you don't mind your preferences, and I'll try to accommodate them. And then, yeah, so please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you always know when I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to simply watch the ads. I thank you all so much for supporting the channel. And if you choose to watch the ads, a major thank you to you, because I know they can be an inconvenience, but you don't have to listen to them. Like, you can put them on mute or do something in the background. Like, I don't care if you watch them or not. If you can just let them play, I would appreciate it, because it really does help the channel. And you know, like I hope to do this full time and like expand like what I do, like how frequently I upload. I would like to have a Patreon one day, like that would be really cool. You know, like I'm tying up graduate school right now, like I'm gonna be graduating in December and then starting a new career in social work, but I would really like this to be like my full-time gig and then do like social work on the side. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to a whole spiel now. What I'm trying to say is I appreciate all the support that I get, and you all are supporting my long-term goals, and I just want to acknowledge that and express gratitude for that. And yeah, I'm wishing you all the very best. I had so much fun with your reading, so thank you for letting me do this reading for you today. Your future spouse seems like a really cool person and someone that I'd want to know, so I'm excited for you all. Take care, pile 2, and I will see you all in my next one. Hi pile 3, welcome to your reading. So if you chose the Lovers card, you are in the right place. So we're actually going to start with the dice today, and then we'll get into your tarot and your oracle messages. Okay, so right off the bat, this cute little pathway here with the little trees and the sun in the distance makes me feel like, in terms of meeting your future spouse and getting to know them and like, you know, that flirtation period, you're really gonna feel like this is the right person pretty early on. Like you're gonna feel like, okay, finally my love life is on track, you know, like it feels pretty smooth, I think, in the beginning, but here's the funny part. Like, even though it feels like this person gets you and you're on the right track in your love life and you're feeling very good about it, there is still this excitement and this mystery and this uncertainty. But I think whereas in the past that would make you anxious, when you meet your future spouse, it doesn't feel that way. You're intrigued. Like, instead of feeling anxious, you're curious, you know? And it makes me feel like this person isn't someone who tells you their whole life story upon first meeting them. You know what I mean? Like, they are very discerning and careful about how much they share, and it's not that they're guarded, but just that they have healthy boundaries. And I actually think that that's gonna feel very reassuring to you, because you know, it's kind of a red flag for me, at least. And this isn't just a romantic thing. This is in terms of like all relationships, like with coworkers, friends, roommates, like certain family members. Like I definitely have noticed a trend in my personal life. Like when I meet someone for the first time and they tell me deeply personal, intimate things about them, typically that person then goes on to have problematic behaviors, or they seem to get ensnared in very dramatic situations, and they're always involved in office drama, gossip, pettiness, things like that, because they don't really have a filter or a sense of like, this is an appropriate setting to share this versus this is not, especially in a professional environment. I have noticed this in particular. And I think if we take this in a romantic context, this would be like going on a date for a first time, and that person tells you everything about their past 5 exes and how their father was an alcoholic, and how that has influenced them, and then this happened to their brother, and then this happened to their sister, and this happened when they were 9 years old, and you know what I mean? Like, instead of it being like, let's get to know each other, it's more of like you're sitting there and you feel like their therapist kind of thing, and it feels very one-sided, like you're just there to listen to them, and they have no real intention of like getting to know you, or they don't really seem to understand that they're dominating the conversation with all of their personal traumas. And like there is like, absolutely, like you should share and get to know each other, but it has to be balanced and it has to be within good time. And if someone's willing to just spill their guts to you right away, and that can feel like, oh, okay, this person doesn't have healthy boundaries, or this person doesn't understand a need, or even how to build trust and then open up, because not everyone is entitled to your story, right? Like people have to earn your story. And so I think that it's going to be a relief to you that your future spouse is not like that. And they flirt with you in a way, and they get to know you in a way where they're just giving you enough, but they're not giving you the full story. So there's still an element of mystery here. Like you see part of them, but you don't see all of them yet. And I think you like that, you appreciate that. It doesn't make you feel anxious, you don't feel nervous, you feel like, oh, okay, this person has healthy boundaries. Like this person seems very emotionally mature. There are no red flags being raised in this situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Gracie saw her like arch nemesis outside. Pooh, honey, baby. Gracie, they cannot see a cat butt in their reading. Come on, Poochie. Come on, Miss Gracie. I'm sorry about that, guys. Cat cameo for you. But anyway, okay. Now that the fuzzy butt has been removed, so yes, I do feel like that's gonna keep you intrigued and like you want to know more. So you are gonna get to know this person slowly over time, and your future spouse is gonna kind of flirt with you by retaining some mystery here and not, divulging every single secret, an experience they've ever been through. And of course, like you don't want to sit there and listen to every problem they've ever had with every single ex. So I think it's gonna just be like very nice and pleasant in terms of like the getting to know you stage. But I also feel like there's a little bit of protectiveness here too from your future spouse. So this is like a very, very specific message, but it is coming through, so I want to share it. Some of you may meet your future spouse in a workplace setting, or maybe you're having issues at work or school or with someone, maybe in your friend group, but I'm picking up, given that we have the 10th house here, this has something to do with your career, but maybe it's a family member or a friend who's giving you a hard time about your career choices. That is something related to career, like someone's giving you a hard time. And when you're dating your future spouse early on, this, again, it's not exactly like they're flirting with you in this way, but you're going to really appreciate the way they defend and protect you. And it could just be as simple as someone's giving you a hard time at work and you open up to your future spouse about that when you're dating them, and the way they defend you and the way they stick up for you and the way they encourage you to advocate for yourself as well is gonna make you feel so supported. And it's just going to feel like, oh, like this is someone that I could really depend upon. And I feel like emotionally with the moon here, you're just gonna feel so supported by them. And I think that idea of like, this is a really emotionally mature person. This is someone who can hold space. This is someone who can have a conversation about feelings, but in a way where it's healthy and balanced. That is gonna feel so refreshing to you, and it's like it's like a wish come true, you know? It's like a wish come true. I don't know if you've just never had that before. You know, maybe you dated people in the past who, you know, it's like one ear and out the other. You know, they're not really listening to you. You're trying to open up to them and they're on their phone, or, you know, they're just nodding and going like, uh-huh, yeah, sure, and not really hearing you or understanding you or supporting you. Or worse than that, they're always playing devil's advocate and saying like, well, have you tried to look at it from their perspective? And it's like, I just need support, and there is no other perspective because this person's a jerk. And if you had been listening, you would get that, you know, I'm being bullied in my workplace, or, you know, I don't know, like, you know, I'm being targeted by a supervisor or by a coworker or whatever. Because sometimes people are just jerks and there is no other side to it. You know, like sometimes people project things onto you and it's unprovoked and you're like, I don't know what I did to this person. And sometimes it's just not about you. And unfortunately, the only thing you can do is, you know, keep doing your best and hope that they resolve that issue that they have with you on their own, because you didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, I feel like this person's just really going to be quite emotionally supportive. And I think that's going to really, really, you know, signal to you that this is your person. Now, with the little basket here and the wolf and the mask, and then the pathway here, does this not feel like Little Red Riding Hood? Like this person could even pass for like the hunter kind of thing. So I do feel like you could be meeting your future spouse at a time when you're dating or seeing or talking to someone else who, and there's a lot of specific messages in this group, so I kind of feel like you guys are a diverse pile. So if anything I'm saying isn't resonating, just leave it, because there's several storylines coming through. This group is quite different than the other two piles. But anyway, so you could be dating or talking to someone else who is like a wolf in sheep's clothing, you know, like you think they're really cool, but it suddenly becomes very clear to you that they're not. And I feel like having that experience and then meeting your future spouse, it's almost like night and day. You know, it's almost like that really horrible experience you just went through or are currently going through, and then your future spouse comes in and you're like, wow, is this like completely the opposite of the nonsense I've just been dealing with? And I think that honestly, it's the maturity of your future spouse that is really very appealing to you, and their honesty, and, you know, it's like no BS, very straightforward. I also feel like with the basket here, this can be read in like two different ways. On one hand, it could be that your future spouse is really into like gift giving, and that's part of how they flirt with you, is that they just like buy you things. Or it could be that you are someone who really likes maybe baking for other people or cooking for other people, or maybe you just are you know, more of a maternal energy, and that's how like you express love. So maybe you have like a Venus in Cancer or something like that, and so you like to do like acts of service or something like that, and your future spouse is very complimentary about that. Or maybe you have certain talents or skills or a passion project that you're really into, and the fact that your future spouse expresses so much interest in that and admiration for your abilities and what you do, and they're so grateful when you do something nice for them, that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy. And then I'm actually going to close the blinds because it got dark really quickly. So anyway, so that, you know, is part of like the flirtatious process here. Process of flirtation. Oh my gosh, okay. It's getting late and I'm getting silly now. But anyways, I feel like you really appreciate that. Is you just like, you love doing things for other people, but you also like the acknowledgement. And so to have someone appreciate you for these things and to take notice and not take it for granted, I think makes you feel really good. I feel like they boost your confidence, but in a very genuine way. You know, with the Leo energy here, like Leo's kind of, I'm a Leo, but we're kind of like a hype man, you know, like we like to hype people up. I think that's fire sign energy in general, like really like to uplift people, especially in terms of encouraging people creatively. You know, if someone has like a passion project or something, and I think we also get really excited when someone has something that they're passionate about and they're sharing that with you. And so it could be that both of you act in this manner where, you know, they talk to you about something they're really passionate about, and then that gets you excited, and then you share what you're really passionate about. But I think that, you know, regardless of however it falls, that is something that is pretty key in how you guys flirt with each other, is that you're both just very supportive, passionate, creative people, and you get each other. You know, if you put two very creative people in the same room, or two people who are very passionate about something, it doesn't have to be the same thing. It doesn't have to be even remotely the same interest. But if you're both passionate and excited and you have good energy and you just genuinely love something, that energy is infectious. And so if you put, you know, two fires next to each other, well, now we have an explosion, right? And that's what it feels like, you know? It feels like this is a mutually inspiring connection. Okay. And again, with the moon, like you like the mystery. Like you like that, you know, they're dynamic. You like that they have different sides to them. You like that they keep you guessing, but in a way that doesn't feel toxic, in a way that feels intriguing. Because they are, like, again, like very mature. They have their life together. So yeah, I think it's almost kind of like there's the earthy, grounded energy here with the 10th house, but then there's also the Leo fire sign energy. So you have a really nice balance here between the passion and the grounded, safe kind of energy. Okay, let's see. Is there any other messages coming through here? I also think with Leo and the moon, so the water and the fire, and then we have the split here, and then you chose the lovers. So I kind of feel like this could be a situation where it's very much like opposites attract, like, but sort of like some of the foundational personality traits are the same. So like you could have, for example, you could both have a similar temperament or a similar way of resolving conflict or similar values, but maybe your interests are completely different, or maybe one of you is an introvert and one of you is an extrovert. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you have this common ground, but you have enough differences to keep it interesting. And I think that's what it is that this person, you have enough common ground to get each other and to understand each other, but you're so different in other ways that it kind of, you know, you want to know more. You're curious. And it could also be that one of you is very much in a divine feminine energy and the other person is very much in a divine masculine energy. And so your strengths can build off of one another and you can come together and create something great. I would say also this could be signifying a soulmate connection. And then with Gemini too, representing the lovers here, there's the duality, right? And you have quite a lot about duality. So I think that, you know, you appreciate each other's differences, but then you are also sort of like mirroring each other in other ways, like two sides of the same coin. Like you're made of the same stuff, but it manifests in different ways. Okay. Trying to think if there's any other messages coming through. I do feel like there's just something here about your career. I don't know if you're meeting this person while you're traveling for work or if you guys both work in the same field, but there is some sort of side message here about your career being very significant. And it could be that you're experiencing success in your career at the time that you meet your future spouse, and that does create more confidence within you, and that draws your future spouse in. That could also be a message. I think that they also just offer you really good advice and you appreciate that, because I do feel like your future spouse is kind of in a position to act as a mentor to an extent. And again, it's not necessarily, it's more so because I'm really picking up that there's some sort of conflict in the workplace or conflict associated with your work. It's almost like you're doing really well and that is creating some jealousy. And, you know, it kind of feels like, you know, when you're winning and you expect certain people to be happy for you, but instead they're trying to undermine your success and undercut your confidence. And I think at that point in time when your future spouse comes in, I'm sorry guys, when your future spouse comes in, they're so supportive of you even though you don't know them that well. And you're like, you know, the people closest to me or the people who I work with should be uplifting me in this same manner, and they're not. And this person doesn't even know me that well, and they're giving me the support that I've been craving from these other people, or that, you know, you just wish that you had because it would make life easier. I think that's gonna mean a lot. And I know that's a deeper message, like beyond just like how they're gonna flirt with you, but I think it's just it's gonna warm your heart. Like there's something there about them really warming your heart and winning you over just by being like a good person. Because again, like I feel like there's kind of a lot of chaos almost, or like disappointment happening, unnecessary drama in your interpersonal relationships when you meet your future spouse. And yeah, it's kind of like everyone is acting so poorly that just by comparison, like your future spouse comes in and they're just a good human. They're just a good person. And you're like, this shouldn't be this hard to find, you know? And yeah, again, like I know that's a side message, but it's almost like your future spouse's higher self is like kind of wanting to prepare you for that. Like almost in a way of saying like, I know things are gonna be crap like before you meet me, and they're kind of gonna go from bad to worse, but just know that like I'll be there at least when the dust settles. Like I'll be there to hold your hand, you know, kind of like in Little Red Riding Hood in the final hour, like she's about to get eaten by the wolf, right? You know, she's been deceived, and that's when, you know, someone swoops in and, you know, helps save the day, so to speak. So, and not to say like you need saving or anything like that, but you do need support, right? Like you deserve that, pile 3. And I think your future spouse is gonna show up for you in a way that is super meaningful, and you're gonna need it. Okay, I'm gonna take this away and we're gonna find out more about how they're gonna flirt with you, because these messages have been kind of all over the place. So let's find out. Pile 3, please, Spirit. How is their future spouse going to flirt with them? Pile 3. Okay, I feel like that wanted to that wanted to be a thing. All right. I just love shuffling on camera. I hope you guys don't mind it. It's just my favorite. I feel like the messages just flow so much better. Oh yeah, 3 of Swords. I'm not surprised. I do like to wait and read all the cards, like once I have them out, just so I get like a full story. It kind of drives me a little bit nuts. Like there are certain readers who, like I know are just so psychic, and they can pull one card and give the most detailed, spot-on reading. But then other times I watch readings and I'm like, they haven't even pulled any like tarot yet. Like they have, or they like speak for 30 minutes on one card, and I'm like, I don't know, like it just doesn't resonate. And I'm like, you know, maybe they should have just pulled more instead of reading so deeply into one message. I don't know. I think it's a real skill if you can do it with just no cards pulled, or like you can channel. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I really tend towards waiting until I have like the full story. Okay. So we have the Moon, we have the 3 of Swords, we have the Hanged Man, and we have the Hermit. Yeah, like this is kind of just reinforcing what we've already been talking about. The 3 of Swords talks about disappointment, grief, heartbreak, loss, and then we have this particular Moon card. She just looks so defeated, doesn't she? Like she looks really distressed and sad, and like, you know, she's packed her little moon bag and she doesn't know like what the stars are gonna bring next, but she's trudging forward and doing the best that she can, and hopefully the next moon cycle blesses her and isn't like the last cycle, right? And then the Hanged Man, this is like right before death, you know, right before a major ending, you know, when you're hanging upside down and you gain a new perspective because your life is literally flashing before your eyes and you're rethinking everything, hindsight 2020. And the Hermit talks about a deep spiritual journey and being on your own and just having your own light to follow and, you know, doing some deep like inner work and connecting to spirit. What does all of this tell us? Like, it really feels like you're at a time, and again, this is like when you're meeting your future spouse, you're at a time in your life where you're feeling like quite isolated. And I feel like it's kind of like when your future spouse comes in with pile 1 and pile 2, especially pile 2, there was more of like a playful energy. Whereas when you are meeting your future spouse, it's kind of like this feeling of being jaded, and you know, what else is next? You know, what's gonna happen now? And I feel like your future spouse shows up and they're kind of like an answer to a prayer. And so when they are flirting with you and talking to you and you're getting to know each other and you're going on those initial dates, it's almost like, and this could be something that they have also gone through and you two could be mirroring each other in some way, but it's almost like they see your circumstances and they're getting your story piece by piece, and they are sharing their experiences piece by piece. And so it's kind of, they're showing me like an origami swan or any type of origami figure, and like it's being slowly unfolded. And as each like fold is made, okay, now the connection deepens, now we get more. And so it's kind of like this intricate dance between you two. Like if we're talking about how you're gonna flirt with each other, it is, and it's not in a way where you're playing games or it's manipulative. It's just that spiritually, you're aligned and you get each other and you understand how the past can influence the present and how everything that has happened has left a mark, but it doesn't mean that it has to keep repeating. And so you, like, both of you have an understanding that healing has to happen. And even though, like, both of you are emotionally mature and, like, you've gone through that process, it doesn't mean that those old wounds can't be triggered again, and it doesn't mean that it hasn't altered the way that you approach love and the way that you think about love and the way that you perceive relationships. And so because of that, like, energetically, you're recognizing that in each other. And so the approach is very different. And so maybe there are a little bit of overlap with pile 1, but it's almost like you guys are, you're doing this dance together, but it's almost like you're submerged in water. Like, it's very beautiful and intentional, like everything is very thoughtfully considered. Like, when your future spouse plans a date with you, it's thoughtfully considered. You know, it's like they're handling you with very, very gentle measures. They really are just very thoughtful. Every time you open up and share something with them, they're like, okay, how do I need to modify my behavior? And how do I need to be mindful of my tone? And how do I need to be considerate of this person's boundaries? Like, if I do this, is this going to trigger some kind of response in them? You know, some of you have had incredibly challenging, you know, experiences in love or, you know, with family members or friends. And there's been a lot of just grief, you know, and a lot of loss. And some of you have been completely on your own for a long time. And so to have this, like, deep spiritual connection with someone and a deep romantic attachment forming, that can feel quite overwhelming. And some of you have become quite attached to being on your own and your independence. And you may want a partner, but then when that, you know, the idea of having a partner is no longer an idea and it's a reality in front of you, that could trigger some fears from your ego. And I feel like your future spouse picks up on all of this. And so if we're talking about how they're gonna flirt with you, they're gonna do so in a way that doesn't spook you, doesn't scare you, doesn't cause those alarm bells. And you know your triggers and you know your boundaries, right? Like, this is a general reading, so it's gonna vary. But, okay, I'll use a personal example. Like, for me, I have some issues with people touching me that I don't know that well, and that comes from some experiences in my childhood. And so, you know, when you have a parent who is very unpredictable in their emotions and is very, like, physically reactive, especially in a way where, you know, like, you had nothing to do with the situation and all of a sudden, like, you know, now there's a physical altercation and you don't know why, that can make you a bit skittish about people touching you that you don't know that well. And that's how it is for me. And so, you know, for me, I get a little bit uncomfortable if someone puts their arm around me and, like, I just met you, you know, or someone wants to hug me and I just met them, or if someone wants to hold my hand and I just met them. Like, it's too much. And I know that for other people, like, that's no big deal, but it's because of that, like, personal childhood issue. And so you may have something like that from a past partner or an issue in childhood, you know, something that makes you uncomfortable, something that makes you a little bit skittish, something that's like an immediate turnoff. And, you know, it's unique to you, you know, it's not necessarily like a common thing, but anything that you have like that, your future spouse is going to be so respectful of it. And I think it's, again, just going to mean the world to you. I also feel like the way that this person opens you up and brings you into their world and their life is going to feel very comforting to you. Because if you've been on your own and you've been really struggling with that, even if it's just emotionally, you've been on your own, like you do have people around you, but they're just not supportive, or if you've been like actually completely, totally on your own without a support system at all, the way that they introduce you into their life and the way that they do it so that you're comfortable is gonna feel like a warm hug. Like it's gonna feel so nice, you know? Like their friends become your friends, their family becomes your family. And they do it in a way that feels very natural and very organic. And I think that this person also, just again as like a side message, and we're gonna get a lot of side messages here, like how they flirt with you is a pretty basic question. Like we don't need a whole reading for that, but it's just a title for the video. Like we're definitely, like we have so many oracle decks to get through. We're gonna get like a lot of info on your future spouse. We're also gonna use the grab bag at the end. So we're gonna get a lot of tea in this reading. But anyway, like I do feel like your future spouse does have a wide social circle and they are close with their family, or they have a large family. And so I feel like the way that they introduce you into their life is, again, like very natural, very organic, but doesn't make you feel like they're taking pity on you. Like if you have been on your own and very lonely and you just, you don't have close family and friends to support you, or, you're kind of the black sheep of the family, something like that, the way that they introduce you into their social circle and their family just feels very easy and it's not going to make you feel like, oh, they don't have anyone, so can they come to Thanksgiving? It's not going to be like that. You're really going to feel like you belong in their life, and that's going to feel very nice. And I also think that they are going to definitely share details about you to their friends and their family. And so, when you meet their friends and their family, they may say like, oh, they've told us so much about you, that kind of thing. I think it's going to be really nice because this is more of like secondhand information, but when you're speaking to their family and their friends, you're gonna find out how much they have bragged about you and how highly they have spoken about you and how much they admire and adore you. And this may be, again, like kind of early-ish in the connection. And I think that it's gonna make you feel very warm and fuzzy because you're gonna know that they're into you, but you're not gonna know the extent of how much they're into you, or the fact that they're already thinking about you as if you're the one. And knowing how committed they actually are to you is going to make you feel really good, because I think either they haven't made that entirely clear to you because they are retaining that like mystery, or maybe if you've been hurt so much in the past, maybe you have some insecurity issues and you just think that they're not that into you, even though they've made that clear to you. So, whichever way it resonates, I think you're just gonna find out from their family and friends, like, oh, they are very like committed to me and they're really into me. And it's just gonna make you feel good to know that they've spoken so highly of you. I'm gonna have to get more tarot here because I feel like we need more information about this. Okay, with the Hierophant here, they're very traditional. Very traditional. And I think for some of you, this is making a lot of sense now too. Okay, if you think about like a traditional courtship, and now that we're looking at this particular depiction of the lovers here, there could be certain gender roles here that may be at play. And this could be a same-sex relationship, and this is still a thing. Like someone takes on the role of the divine masculine, someone takes on the role of the divine feminine, and, you know, each of you has kind of a role to play in that, or that maybe the dynamic that your future spouse approaches you with, because it does seem like they're very traditional and they're very by the book. And so, you know, this is the, you know, they may fall into that, like, you know, oh, on the, you know, this is the 3-date rule, or, oh, you know, I planned the date, so I'm gonna be the one to pick you up at your house, or, you know, on a first date, you always bring flowers, or, you know, like whatever dating rules. It seems like they have like a certain rule book that they kind of follow. The way she's putting her fingers up here makes me think of like Scout's honor. Like, you know, like, I'm gonna do things by the book, I'm gonna do things the right way. Like, you may find them saying things like that, like, oh, I'm gonna do things the right way, or this is what you should do when you're dating. Like, they have a certain idea, like, in their head of, like, these are the rules to dating, and this is how you're supposed to carry yourself. I feel like this person has a real strong, like, moral compass, in a sense of, like, they have a very clear sense of, like, this is what is right and this is what is wrong, and this is the standard that I hold myself to. And I think you're gonna find that very refreshing, because you're not in a situation where someone is being deceitful and lying to you and has no moral standards. So I think you're gonna like that. I think also, if this person, it could be that you're very spiritual and maybe they are religious. And so remember how I was saying that in some ways you have common ground, but in other ways you're very different. Like, both of you may have a sense of faith, but maybe they would use terminology like God, but you use terminology like spirit guides in the universe. You know what I'm saying? So, like, not to say that you watching this, you're not religious. That it may just be a specific message for some of you, but that's just an example of there's some differences here, but then there's common ground within the same aspect of your life. But yes, I do think that they're gonna be quite inquisitive too, but in a way that respects your space. Like, Pile 1 had, I think it was Pile 1. I filmed the other 2 readings earlier today, so they're a little bit more of a distant memory. But there was one group where it was like, you know, they're going to be really curious and inquisitive and want to know more. And in this one, it's a softer approach. It's a softer approach. Like, I want to know more about you, but on your time. You know, like, they're just, I don't know, like, this person just has a very, like, this isn't like a sweep you off your feet rom-com movie kind of romance. This is more of a grounded, let's slowly get to know each other and introduce you into my life kind of energy. And it's kind of the difference between this person may come from a wealthier background. Like, they do have a little bit of, they might be a little bit snobby about certain things, because they're telling me, like, in like a funny way, they're telling me like, oh, this is the difference between someone going to the club versus someone being at a ballet. Like, there's an art to this. Like, there's an art to dating, and you don't just text someone to Netflix and chill. Like, that's not the proper way of doing things. Like, this person is very concerned about the proper way of doing things. Yeah, like, they're very by the book, but it's like they've written their own book kind of thing. With the Ace of Wands, this particular card makes me think of Sailor Moon and how Tuxedo Mask, if you've never seen like the 90s version of the show, Tuxedo Mask is Sailor Moon's love interest, and she is kind of terrible at fighting. Like, she's a crybaby, and she really relies a lot on the other Sailor Scouts. Like, she's just kind of a mess in combat, to be honest. Like, I've grown to love her, but she is a mess. And so there are several times where he has to save her because of her just inability to transform quickly and get the job done. And so like when he shows up, he'll like throw a rose at the, and it's so ridiculous, like a rose is gonna stop this villain. Most of the time it does work though. And so like he'll just toss in a rose and then bam, like a day is saved, everything's solved. And so your future spouse, I think, almost to an annoying degree maybe, will kind of just pop up in your life at times when you're just struggling and everything is a mess, and they just swoop in so easily and just resolve everything, and you're like, oh. And I think that sometimes you're gonna love that, and other times it's almost annoying how competent this person is. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just very funny. I do think you're gonna have a lot of fun together. Oh yeah, the Emperor. Okay, your future spouse has a very strong divine masculine energy. They absolutely, like 100%. And I do feel like there's also an aspect here of your future spouse being someone who is kind of a catch, to be honest. Like, they have a lot going for them. Like, I do think they could be quite wealthy. They could own their own business. They could come from money. They could have a nice home. You know, I do think they're quite physically attractive, and because they're so mature and they don't act like a child, that's attractive and apparently a rare quality these days. And so, because they have a lot going for them, and they're a good person on top of all that, like morally, they're a good person. They're quite a catch, and I do think they have a lot of options. And so the fact that they have so many choices in love, and yet they still choose you, and they only have eyes for you, you're the only person they're giving a rose to, I think that in and of itself attracts you and draws you into them. And I do think they are going to be actively pursuing you. Like, they're going to be calling you, they're going to be asking you out on a date, they're going to be planning the trips and stuff like that. Like, they're definitely taking on that masculine role, and like, you know the rule about, oh, the guy's supposed to ask the girl out. Your future spouse, like, if they're a man, they would absolutely like prescribe? Yeah, they would follow that rule, because they have like a very traditional idea of like courtship. And I mean, you may like that, you may not like that. And if it's a same-sex couple, it's just that they take on that masculine role. And so, yeah, what was I saying? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit off track in this reading. Yeah, so I think it's going to make you feel quite special that they only have eyes for you, even though they could have their pick, really. Like, they're very attractive, they have lots of options, but they really only have eyes for you. And I also feel like there's something there about them kind of spoiling you a little bit. Like, you can kind of have anything you want. You know, they kind of just want to, I think especially because you've had such a hard time, like, they really kind of take it upon themselves to put you in a better emotional state. You know, like, they kind of take it upon themselves to make you smile, or to make you laugh, or to cheer you up, or to, you know, be a shoulder for you to cry on. You know, like, they like being, your future spouse likes being needed. You know, like, they like to be useful. And I think that's a very, like, masculine thing. Like, there's definitely something about masculine energy. Like, they like to fix things, they like to support things, they like to be useful, they like to be competent, you know, because those are traits that are admired in the masculine energy, right? Like, to be assertive, to take charge of a situation, to resolve things, to build things, to fix things, to create things, right? Like, that's all very masculine energy. And I do feel like your future spouse, you know, gets into that. Yeah, and I think in terms of, like, if we had to say, like, what is their love language and how does that factor into the way that they flirt with you, I would definitely say acts of service. I Physical touch, I think, will come later on in the connection because they're so traditional and very respectful, and I don't see this person being overtly sexual or showing a lot of PDA until they knew you gave a green light to that. I don't think that they would go there, because there's something about them being very intentional and very mindful of what they're saying and how they're acting and the way that they're touching you and the way that they're just handling you, both physically and emotionally. I think, again, there's so much intention behind everything that they're doing, and I think it's because I can sense you've been hurt. Yes. And let me think here. I do think quality time will also be something, but more so in the simple pleasures. Like, this isn't someone who needs to plan some big adventure to spend quality time. It's more of like the simple things, like sharing a cup of coffee together can be quality time. It's more of being in your presence and being fully there and not being on their phone or being distracted by other things that are going on. Just being fully present with each other is something they will really value, and they really like quiet time with you. They like that one-on-one quiet time, like sharing a cup of coffee, going for a walk through the park kind of energy. Let's see. Anything else coming forward? I think that's it. Let's get into your oracle now. Let's look and see which archetype will best represent how they will flirt with you. And again, I know we've gotten a lot of additional messages, but it's kind of like the intention, how they flirt with you is like a starting place, and then we'll see where it goes kind of thing. But definitely they have a strong divine masculine energy for sure. Okay, let's see. Pile 3. How will they flirt with you? Serving humanity with humility, the Messiah. So it's funny, there's so much here about spirituality. I think both of you are quite spiritual, or again, someone is very religious and someone is very spiritual. But I do feel like it's the sense of they're just so good to you. The way that they speak to you, it's kind of like they hold you in high esteem. They think so highly of you, and I think it just makes you feel good because you can tell they're not... Words of affirmation could also be a love language here, but it's not that they're giving you a ton of compliments and it's just flattery for flattery's sake. They're not trying to get on your good side. When this person says something, they truly mean it. And this person isn't the type to just give out compliments to anybody, when they say something, it's because they truly, genuinely, authentically believe it. This person is very intentional with their words. They're not someone who just says the first thing that comes to mind. And so I kind of feel like your future spouse has a stern, kind of stoic energy to them. And so the fact that they hold you in such high regard and they think so highly of you and they speak so highly of you, that makes you feel so good because they're not like that with anybody else. And I think it just means the world to you that someone who is so accomplished and so successful and so good at what they do, especially if you're feeling attacked in your career or because of your school, educational decisions, and then you have someone who is so successful come in and say, hey, you're doing an incredible job, you're really talented, you could absolutely achieve your dream. To have that validation from someone and have them genuinely mean it, how incredible is that going to feel? And so I think the reason why I've kind of been struggling more with your reading compared to the first two groups is because it's almost like to say that this person flirts doesn't really do them any justice, because flirting kind of they're telling me this now. Flirting kind of implies a little bit of an inauthenticity to them. Like, for them, truth and honesty is everything. And flirting kind of seems like maybe you're trying to get something from someone, or you're trying to appear a certain way. And for them, they would rather just cut down to the root of something, and they feel like because of the need for boundaries and getting to know each other in a healthy pace, that they're just not interested in sparks flying. They're just not really interested in a flash in the pan kind of romance. That doesn't appeal to them. And so for them, flirting is inconsequential. What matters is, how do I make space for you in my life? How do I assess whether you make sense in my life and whether I make sense in yours? And how can we merge our two very different worlds together? How do we fit together? And how do we go about discovering that with each other? And so I think your future spouse has quite an analytical mind. They're very rational, very logical, again, so masculine. And that playful, emotional, flirtatious game is kind of beneath them a little bit. And I think given your circumstances at the time that you're meeting them, that's not really gonna bother you so much, because you just want something real, and you just want something that you can hold on to, and someone who's going to help you make sense of the broken pieces of your life. Because I think when they come in, it's like you're trying to put together a puzzle from the old scraps of your life that maybe just don't make sense anymore. And so when they come in, it's not that they're saving you or you're some damsel in distress or whatever. Again, gender doesn't matter. I'm just talking about a trope here. But it's almost like they come in and they just suggest to you, what if the pieces just don't work anymore? What if it's not you? What if your vision isn't the problem, but it's the materials that you're using? And so they kind of just do something that shifts your perspective. And I think that you're always going to feel grateful to them for it, but they would never hold that over your head, and they would never make you feel lesser than. And if anything, it's like they show you how to empower yourself. Like, they show you what was already within you. They hold up that mirror and they show you. And I think it's because they see something within you that reminds them of a spark within themselves. And because they've already reached their goals, they've already achieved like what they set out to do, they're like, like, I see that even though we have these differences, that passion, that drive, that work ethic, that talent, even if it's totally different, it's there within you. That strength is there within you, and it's the same as mine. And so they help bring that out of you, but they're not saving you. They're just showing you your own strength in a way that I think that you were aware of, but maybe you suppressed it, or maybe you were just going through a difficult cycle and you were like, how much longer do I need to be strong? I could cry right now. That doesn't happen often in a reading, but it's kind of like a spirit, like, how much longer do I have to hold on? How much longer is my faith going to be tested? Like, how much longer am I going to be put through this because I'm trying to see the other side, but I don't know where this ends? And it's just like you're seeking this light at the end of the tunnel, and your future spouse comes along and they're like, well, what if there is no light at the end of the tunnel? What if you are the light? And you're like, whoa. You know, like, they say something to you that just shifts your entire world upside down, and it does feel like a little bit of like Alice in Wonderland, like the whole perspective just shifts. And so I think that's kind of the issue, is that the act of flirting in and of itself is so lighthearted, and nothing about this feels light. Everything about this feels heavy. And I think it's because your future spouse comes in and they don't offer lightness to your life. They are a rock. They are a stable foundation for you. And that's the difference. So in terms of the rest of your reading, we're just going to go through the oracle and see what comes out. And I hope you're okay with that, pile 3. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Friendship. Yeah, they like lend you a helping hand. Like, you got a friend in me. Like, this is very much like soul family, meant to be. They come in at the exact right time, and it feels like everything's a mess, but this is what makes sense. And I do think with this spy card, like, this could be suggesting that you meet them on an online dating app, or that they are admiring you from afar. This could also talk about, because they are so successful and they're good at what they do, you could, maybe they're like a public figure to some extent, and maybe you're aware of their work or like what they're known for or their reputation before you actually meet or talk to them. This could also show that in terms of like communication, it's definitely going to be very consistent. So this is someone who's going to call frequently, text you frequently, you know, like maybe send you like cute videos on Instagram, things like that. Yeah, and I think with the soul connection, it's like, I think that's part of like what intuitively feels safe about this. And even though you have been put through the ringer, I think in so many aspects of your life, pile 3, there's no anxiety here or nervousness. There's no fear coming up, because intuitively it just feels right. And if you've been on this spiritual journey, you should be like very connected to your intuition. You know, like I don't think you have a disconnect with your intuition at all. I think your intuition is very strong. And I think that's part of it too, is that maybe sometimes you doubt that and you don't trust that. Let's see, what else do we need to know, pile 3? Any messages from... When I like split the deck, I didn't realize this card was already flipped over, but the fact that this is now repeating, like there are no accidents in a tarot reading, right? Like somebody may already have their eye on you, pile 3. Someone may be checking you out even as we speak. So I don't know. And this could even be like, maybe you have an Etsy store and they have visited your Etsy store. Like it could be something like that. I wouldn't take it in like a creepy way, but it could be that they're aware of you, that you already know this person. This could also be like if you have a dating profile on a dating app, maybe they have like favorited or liked or bookmarked or like whatever. I'm sure every dating app has a different term for it. But maybe they've matched with you, but they just haven't sent that first message. That could also be a thing. Or if you work in the same place, you know, maybe they have asked around about you kind of thing. Okay, maybe they've looked at your LinkedIn profile. That kind of thing. All right, pile 3 here. Yeah, you are like really, really hurting. And I mean, I just want to take a moment and pause. Like, if you're in this right now, pile 3, like, my heart goes out to you. And if you are feeling like you don't know if this is ever going to come into fruition, if you're doubting whether you're ever going to meet the one, or if there's just a lot of other painful things happening right now in your life and you just feel like, where is my support system? Like, how long am I going to have to just live by my faith and have nothing else like in my life that feels like I can hold on to something? Just know that you are absolutely 100% worthy and deserving of love and a healthy, happy connection. And what you're going through is not a punishment. If you can shift that perspective to, this isn't a punishment, this is preparation, I think that could greatly help you. But I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or tell you that. I don't want to minimize or invalidate how you're feeling. And if this is where you're at, this is where you're at, and that is okay. It's not, don't feel like it's somehow a bad thing that you're healing, or somehow a bad thing that you've encountered like karmic connections. Like, it's nothing to do with you, and it's not like, yeah, now we have sad. It's not like, oh, because you haven't healed from every single thing that ever happened to you, you don't get to meet your future spouse. You know, it's not like that. And sometimes we are asked to have periods of time alone so that we can do that reflection, but that doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it pleasant. And it's kind of just one of those things where just do the best that you can, and that's it. And if your best sometimes is being angry and needing to even distance yourself from your spiritual side and just like binge watch TV for a while, then do that. But the sun will come back in, right? The sun always does. And in fact, the sun, we had the Leo symbol in the beginning. Like, that is within you already. That's your heart, okay? Leo rules the heart. Leo, in my opinion, rules the summertime. And Leo also rules the sun. And the sun will come back in, but I think what is the trick is that you are the sun. And so when you have integrated this, and when you are ready to step back into your own light, that is going to, I think, Spirit is suggesting, align with the seasons. So, you could be meeting your future spouse during the months of June, July, August. You could also be meeting them earlier than that, developing a friendship, and then it becomes an exclusive relationship in the summer. This could also be suggesting that maybe they've had their eye on you since the summertime, but they haven't moved towards you. So maybe they've been watching you for a minute, but they haven't actually made a move. And maybe they haven't made a move because you're in this space and they don't think it's appropriate. So just take whatever message resonates here. But But yeah, I do feel like things are very heavy for you. And if they're not heavy for you right now, this is gonna be something that's happening in the future for you. And I think that at least the one bright spot is that you can remember this reading and know that yes, the worst may feel like it's happening, but the best will be at the end of it, and that would be connecting and uniting with this soulmate who is going to be your future spouse. Now, it reminds me, there was another reading here lately where this same line came to me, and it was the Invisible String song by Taylor Swift, and she says, hell was the journey, but it brought me heaven. That's exactly like summing up, I think, this whole connection. Hell was the journey, but it brought me heaven. And invisible string, like she's talking about, she calls it like a gold, actually she calls it a golden string in the song, and sun, golds, Leo, here we go again. But she's like referring to the red string of fate, you know, with soulmates, so. I mentioned earlier that I sense like an Alice in Wonderland energy from that Lovers card, and now we have the Cheshire Cat here with Joker, Stir It Up. You know, the Cheshire Cat is kind of like a guide to Alice as she goes through Wonderland, but he kind of messes with her a lot, right? Like he doesn't really seem to ever help her, and he kind of shows up in the most kind of, you know, it's kind of like some of her worst moments. He just pops up with a smile, and, you know, he has that like devious smile and that claw out. And I kind of feel like you feel like you've just been encountering people who are just messing with you for no good reason and being malicious for no good reason, and you kind of feel tricked a lot. You know, and you feel like things are getting better and then they don't, and things are getting better and then they don't, and everything feels just wrong and topsy-turvy and not as it should be, and it kind of just feels like you're in this bad dream. And, you know, it's time for you to separate from that. It's time for you to come out of Wonderland and back into this grounded reality, and I feel like your future spouse helps pull you there. And you know, you start to have fun again. Like you start to feel good about where things are. And I feel like that's such a welcome change, you know, to feel like life isn't so serious and so heavy anymore. And then with the mystery here, again, it's just like so incredible that you can meet someone who doesn't open up to you right away, and who is a bit more reserved, and who is maybe like completely and totally different than what you're used to, and yet they feel so stabilizing, and you can trust in the mystery. And I think for like, if you're in a situation now where the future feels really uncertain and you're not sure what's gonna happen, and you know, you've been trying to stay strong in your faith, but it's really hard, and you're wondering like, when are things gonna get better, and like, when is this cycle gonna end? And then someone comes into your life and they themselves are to an extent a mystery, and yet you trust them. Like, it's almost like you're being taught patience, and your faith is absolutely being tested. And then when you show the universe you're ready, then the universe is like, all right, bring in this mystery person. And then the fact that you then trust that person feels like, really, spirit? like okay, like I get it. 'Cause I think before, if you hadn't gone through this process, if you hadn't I think even maybe with some exes, there could have been like trauma bonding going on. But if you hadn't gone through that process, if you hadn't gone through those experiences, I think your future spouse and their more reserved nature may have freaked you out a little bit and may have triggered fears in you. And so like you had to be ready for a healthy, happy, stable connection and someone who was going to open up to you over time and someone who was going to go at a pace where they would actually build a stable foundation with you and you would have a lasting marriage and a lasting connection. And despite, you know, it being a soulmate connection and there being an intensity of emotion and attraction, yeah, so again, I feel like it's not a punishment, it's preparation. Let's see what else we can find out here. And it's so hard. Like, I never want to undermine or invalidate that for you, but it is difficult. Pile three. I'm sorry this is taking a more somber tone, but, you know, like if that's what you're going through, that's what you're going through. Yeah. We have the Divine Feminine. This is a little bit of an explicit card, so I'm just gonna cover her up. Okay. So yes, I feel like they are really gonna honor and love your Divine Feminine side. And if you're watching this and you resonate with a strong Divine Masculine energy, honestly, this might not be your group. It may be a little bit late to say that because we're almost done, but I think maybe you would have picked that up already. But they really honor and love your softness. And how beautiful is that? Like if you've been put through the ringer and you've been tested and you've had your strength just pushed over and over and over again, and you've had to develop such emotional resilience, and then you meet someone who you don't have to be tough with, who you don't have to even, like someone who just loves your soft, vulnerable, intuitive, spiritual side, someone who loves that. I mean, that's just beautiful. We have intimacy here. I think that's really what it is that this person allows you to be held. And I'm kind of freaking out right now because I don't know if you all remember, but in the beginning of the reading, I said that it was like an intricate dance, but you were in water and they're holding each other in water. And they look like they could be, like if you stood this up like this, it does look like they could be slow dancing in water. I'm sorry, it just, I really like that tying up your reading. And they are like very traditional, like a bubble bath, flowers, candles, like it's very traditional. And what are you leaving behind, pile 3? The distorted masculine. I believe I said that as well. Maybe it was another group though, honestly. But this person is a true divine masculine. They're not operating from this energy, and you're going to be quite relieved and quite happy to leave this energy in the past. Like you're not, you know, with someone who is controlling or manipulative or chauvinistic, you know? So that's going to feel great. All right, and let's end your reading, pile 3, with your grab bag messages. So there are personality traits in here. There are careers, physical attributes. I'm going to be uploading your future spouse's physical appearance sometime in the month of November, so make sure you have the notification bell on. That video has been really requested, so I figured I'd better go ahead and make it. All right. There's also love languages in here. All right, pile 3, what do we need to know? Please, Spirit, who is pile 3's future spouse? What do we need to know? I'm gonna get one more, there we go. Their love language is gifts. We had that in the beginning with, yeah, you got the little basket. Remember how I said they could be offering you things? So that is cool. Always good to get a confirmation. Okay, they could love music or be a musician. You guys could also bond over music and introduce each other to new artists, or you'll find that you have similar musical interests. That could also be talking about, remember how I said with Leo and the 10th house, they could have something that they're very passionately you know, something, they could have a passion, Lord, I can't even talk. They could have a creative passion that they love, or possibly that they do for work, and then, you know, you would be inspired by that because you're also a very creative person. This could be picking that up on that, that is their creative passion, is music. Okay, they could have auburn hair, so they could have like reddish brown hair. They're romantic. I like that because they are, it's very like traditional romance, like all the way with them. Very, again, like by the book. Like we were talking about candles, flowers, bubble bath. Like that's kind of their jam. Okay, we have animal lover, loves pets. That's not gonna work. Okay, and then very family oriented. Yeah, we got that with the 3 of Cups earlier on too. Okay, so pile 3, this reading played out very differently than I expected. I hope that it didn't emotionally trigger you too much. I hope that it was emotionally validating, but my heart goes out to you. Take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, take space for yourself as you need to, and make no apologies for your healing journey. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Oh, I forgot to say this. If you skip the intro, I do ask, if you don't mind, giving me feedback in the comments. Do you all prefer like short to the point intros, or would you prefer me to start like chit-chatting or giving a more detailed breakdown of the reading in the intro? Because I've just noticed, like, you know, I follow and subscribe to several channels on YouTube. Like, I love watching tarot readings. I'm a fan of many channels myself. And I've just noticed that some of their intros are like so long in comparison to mine, because I just get straight to the point. And as a viewer, like I typically just pause the reading as soon as it opens, and then I just go to the reading. Like, you know, like I just meditate, and then I'm like, okay, you know, and usually it's like very quick, like automatically. I'm like, that's my group. And so like, I don't know, it just never occurred to me to film a longer intro. But I started to think to myself the other day, I was like, would my subscribers like prefer that? Are my intros too short? Like I started to get self-conscious about it, and I was like, well, let me just ask. So if you guys don't mind, I would really appreciate it if you let me know in the comments what your preference is. But anyway, so please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload readings. And I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who chooses to watch the ads or do any of the things I just listed out. It really does help the channel grow. I would love to do this full time, and I have a lot of things I want to do with the channel, and to be able to support myself and my cat Gracie. I just blew all this one. I'm laughing. I just blew all the papers everywhere. But to be able to do that would be really, really cool. Because, yeah, I love doing this, and it really, I don't know, like over the past year, like I've really taken stock of like where I'm going, and I'm graduating with my master's, and I'm hoping that when I get to actually work in the social work profession, I'm gonna feel more connected to my work, and I'm gonna feel more like I'm making a genuine difference. Because for me personally, like I want to feel like I have purpose in my career, and not like I'm just showing up, and you know, it could really you know, not make a difference at all. And so that's just how I personally feel. And so doing like this YouTube channel has really helped me because, you know, at my previous job, I'm still in it, but I'm about to leave. I just haven't feel connected to my work in a long time. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm making a positive difference, and that can be, for me at least, a little bit soul crushing. And so I'm very grateful is what I'm trying to say for this channel, because I do think that, yeah, it has been a bit of a struggle, like working and going to school and filming these videos. But I think if I didn't film these videos, my mental health would just be all over the place. And filming these readings has really helped me feel like what I do matters. And I don't know, like, it just means a lot to me. Like, when I read comments and people are really resonating with it and it's helping them or guiding them or giving them the clarity or the confirmation they needed to hear. And I don't know, like, it just makes me feel good that this is having some kind of impact on people and benefiting, or even at the very least entertaining people, or providing them some sense of comfort, especially with the future spouse readings. Like, I want them to be entertaining and I want them to be comforting, and especially like confirming signs and synchronicities too for people. So yeah, I'm going off. I don't know why I'm giving you guys this whole spiel, because I didn't give it to the other groups. But yeah, I just want to express so much gratitude to you all, and thank you for all of your help towards achieving like that long-term vision that I have for the channel. So yes, and really I just hope that you all take care. I'm wishing you the very best in love. I hope that that moment for you of like uniting with them and connecting with them happens soon. You know, of course, divine timing is always at play, but I hope that it does happen for your sake sooner rather than later, because it just really feels like, to me, you're kind of at a point of reckoning where you're kind of just like, when is this getting better? And that's a hard place to be in. And so I just want to acknowledge that and encourage you to really take care of yourself, Pile 3, because you matter as well. So I'll see you all in my next one. Have a good day.